What's good, y'all? Welcome back to the Playmaker's Corner podcast. I'm your host for today, Simon Villanos, aka Coach V. It is March 2nd, 2026 when I am recording this, and I am bringing you your Week 3 2026 Women's College Flag Football Recap. These are all the games from February 23rd to March 1st. I don't think there are any March 1st games, but I'm just going to say that anyways. We go Monday to Sunday on these weeks, and we got a lot of great games and classics to talk about here. Remember, on this episode, we are just going to recap the games. We're going to talk about what happened this last weekend, and then on the Thursday episode, that is our recognition and rankings episode, so make sure you look out for that. But today, we have a whole bunch of recaps here. I have the NAIA level, Gino has the D3 level, and then Kodey will be talking about the D2, D1, and junior college level here, recapping all the great games that happened. What's going to happen is that we're going to recap a whole bunch of them on a segment, and then if there are games that were closer or that we feel like deserves a little bit of a closer look, we will have a separate segment for those after our general recap one. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and hop right into the flag football. What's good, y'all? I got your Week 3 NAIA recap. That is a whole bunch of games from February 23rd all the way to March 1st, really February 28th, because there weren't any games on March 1st, but I'll be covering all the games that happened, except for a handful of games that I feel like deserve, or that we felt like deserve, an individual recap. And so a lot of those recaps will happen after this segment. Some will happen after Cody's segment, talking about D2s and whatnot. Wingate, Ottawa is the one he will be covering. I will be covering Thomas Life on the segment after this, as well as Keiser, Ottawa on the segment after this. And I think also I believe I'm going to do Cottey versus Pratt. But other than that, I'm just going to do a rundown of all the other games that happened in Week 3. And once again, if I am missing any, feel free to let me know. Let us know on social media so that way we could cover your team. But let's go ahead and get this thing started. Wednesday, February 25th is where we saw a lot of NAIA action kicking off here. Let's go ahead and start in Florida. We have Warner facing off with St. Leo University. I believe St. Leo is an NCAA school, and they are a varsity program, or they will be a varsity program here soon. But Warner continues their role here and go ahead and win 81-0, their second big win in a row by over 50 points. Let's go ahead and look at the stats for Warner. Catherine Hutchinson playing nearly perfect here, 23 of 26, 430 yards, 10 touchdowns, also 19 rushing yards as well. Serenity Hickman got in there for 2 pass completions for 9 yards, also 3 rushing yards there. As far as receiving goes, it was OMG Omariah Gordon who led the receiving group this time with 5 receptions for 109 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jessica Finley, Everett the producer, right behind her, 5 receptions, 92 yards and 2 touchdowns. Anna Vincent-Cini, 3 for 64 and a touchdown. Avalon Luck-Sufferman, 5 and 62 and a touchdown, and then Maggie Lauber leading them in receiving touchdowns, 3 receptions, 61 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Serenity Hickman also with a receiving touchdown in this one, as so many Warner receivers got to eat and show out in this big game. Defensively, Warner obviously held them to 0, but they were led by Andre Castillo and Anna Vincent-Cini with 4 flag poles each. Vincent-Cini with a pick, Angeline Bunting with a pick. Jessica Finley had a big 47-yard pick. I want to say that was maybe a pick 6 even as well. I can't see anything in the stats, but it looks like it was a big one there. And then as far as sacks goes, Marion Torrero, 2 sacks. Adriana Williams got a sack. That would mark the second straight game where I believe Warner had multiple sacks and multiple turnovers on defense, as they also continue to dominate on their side of the ball, winning 81-0 over St. Leo University. That will go ahead and send Warner into a solid, not more than solid, dominant 2-0 start. Moving across the country here, we're going to Kansas, where Baker is hosting their home opener. I believe this would be the first game for both teams, Baker and Midland. Baker currently the number 4 team in the country, having not played a game, but according to our preseason rankings at number 4, and still there at number 4, mind you. And then you have Midland here, who, per usual, is still ranked at 15. Looking to kick off their season here. A lot of changes for Midland, and unfortunately for them, it seemed like just too much. Baker, after a quiet first quarter, exploded in the second quarter. A 25-point second quarter to go ahead and pretty much put this thing away. Midland would score in the third, but it would not be enough. Baker adds on another 14 in the fourth to win a dominant 39-7 over the number 15 team in the country, according to our rankings, Midland. Looking at the stats here, let's start with Baker, and who would be playmaker of the game for them. Terry Lorente, 15 of 28, 145 yards, 3 touchdowns, only 1 interception thrown. Rushing-wise, 11 rushes for 66 yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, as I believe she is your playmaker of the game of this one. Sanaya Waller, ever the producer in this one, went ahead and threw for 5 of 6 for 34 yards and a touchdown. Kaylee Phillips, 2 of 2 for 26 yards there as well. Kayla Harrison had a rushing touchdown, a 21-yard rushing touchdown. And then receiving-wise, Waller led in reception, 7 for 46 and a touchdown. Alana Romy right behind her, though, 3 for 45 and a touchdown. Kayla Harrison, 3 for 41. Kaylee Phillips, 3 for 29. Mahogany Simmons, 2 for 20. And then Destiny Martinez, 2 for 11 and a touchdown on offense for Baker. Defensively, it was Gabriela Zabaleta that led with 9 flag pulls for them. Also had an interception. Kaylee Phillips had an interception. Mariah Greenfield had an interception as well. And then it looks like Jaden Keith, as well as Natalie Busk, I want to say, or Boos, had 2 sacks for Baker as they dominated. Looking on the other side of the football here for Midland, it was Lotta Wolf who had the majority of the snaps for them, although they did play their 3 quarterbacks, or 2 quarterbacks in this one, but struggled in the season opener. Mind you, it was against the number 4 team in the country, but still some struggles here early on, which is to be expected. 18 of 34, 122 yards and 3 interceptions. Also rushed 2 times for -5 yards. Karina Alfaro didn't do too much better. 3 of 9 for 19 yards and an interception as well. Holiness Hodges was actually the only one who threw a touchdown. Only 1 pass attempt for a touchdown, a 15-yarder there, which we'll talk about here in a minute. Receiving-wise, got a shout-out Colorado native in her first game ever on the collegiate level. We have Melanie Archuleta, aka Ducky, 4 for 46 as she led the team. Holiness Hodges led in receptions, though, 5 receptions for 31 as the freshman duo goes to work. The lone player to catch a receiving touchdown for Midland, unfortunately, was just Emily Farron, 3 for 22 and a touchdown. You also have Elia Livingston, 3 for 22, Emma Rodriguez, 2 for 13, Alyssa Butler, 3 for 10, and then Olivia Dominguez-Millsap, only 1 reception in this one here. And then defensively for them, I mean, they did get 2 interceptions in this game. Unfortunately, couldn't do too much with it. Olivia Dominguez-Millsap had 1, and then Eunice Sambale had 1 as well. But leading the team in flag pulls was actually Ducky Archuleta with 7 flag pulls there. As far as sacks goes, I think it's Natia Blaylock had a sack, but not too much really going for them. I mean, 2 interceptions in game 1 is not bad, especially against a team like Baker, who is going to go ahead and air it out and, play their brand of offensive football, which is very, very intricate and complicated. But you got to be able to score on the college level, and so some early struggles here for Midland and some early success for Baker goes ahead and results in this 39-7 win. Number 4 Baker knocking off number 15 Midland. Okay, now moving on to the next day here, we have Thursday, February 26th. A lot of big games happening in this one. Remember, I will cover Ottawa versus Keiser after this NAIA recap here. But moving on, I'm just going to mention this score here. Ottawa playing Florida Gateway after their Keiser game lost to them 27-7. Kodey will talk about that more on his recap because he has the junior college one this week, so make sure you check that out. Florida Gateway would also beat Reinhardt by a lot, 39-6 here, so not alone in that. I do have the stats for Reinhardt. Alexis Wilson, not even that bad of a game. 21 of 32, 158 yards, 1 touchdown, no turnovers. Yeah, and Addie Anderson as well, 5 of 6 for 43 yards. Wilson also had 25 rushing yards for them. They just couldn't really sustain any drives or score a whole bunch, which is an issue there. As far as receiving goes, Blythe Townsend led with 5 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown. Nicole Roos, 6 for 47, and then Victoria Salmon, 4 for 23, as well as Blue McFarland, 4 for 21. Those are your lead receivers for Reinhardt. Defensively, obviously, did not find too much success. Townsend led with 10 flagpoles. Janiah Hughes had 2 sacks. But no turnovers. And on top of that, they also allowed Florida Gateway to score 39. This wasn't the, I guess, worst game. It was like 20-6 at half. Maybe if Reinhardt scored in the third, it would have been closer and felt closer, but they just couldn't as they got shut out after that first score. So that's tough, and I'm going slightly out of order here because they actually played this team, but Reinhardt's day was not that much easier at the beginning because at 9 a.m. Eastern time, they played D2 Wingate, a first-year program, and they fell to them 48-12. I know this is the NAIA segment, so I won't talk about Wingate too much, but shout out our Colorado girls, Sailor, Addison Cadwell, Maddie Jones over there, holding it down for Colorado, and both going crazy on Reinhardt, as Reinhardt just kind of struggled to keep up defensively and offensively with this Wingate attack as they fall 48-12. Wingate, though, was number 10 in the country for us before this first game. I believe that was their first game of the season, though, so there is that. But for Reinhardt, Alexis Wilson, a lot of struggles. 15 of 40 for 162 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 picks. Addie Anderson had an incompletion thrown in there. Wilson also had 57 rushing yards, but just not too much going for them as offensively they continued to struggle. Maya McRae, 2 for 66 and a touchdown. Kalaya Wimbush, 8 for 44. Nicole Roos, 2 for 30. Victoria Salmon, 2 for 19 and a touchdown. One of their 2 in this one. Defensively, obviously, struggles here. Townsend and Destiny Curtis, both 4 flagpoles each. Nadia King and Kamar Tanzil both sacked Sailor 2 times there. But that is pretty much it. No turnovers on Wingate here, as the team in general just kind of struggled to open up this week because, like I said, this was their first game before that Florida Gateway game, and not easy games because Florida Gateway is also currently ranked in our top 10, actually at number 5 as of last week. So there you go. Reinhardt drops 2 tough ones on that Thursday. And unfortunately, does not get much easier because on Friday, the 27th here, Reinhardt would also have to play number 2 Keiser. So right there, number 2, number 5, number 10 against unranked Reinhardt. Not the greatest matchups for them, but, you know, challenging themselves, playing them anyways. Let's go ahead and look at it. They would play number 2 Keiser and lose 61-0. Keiser with another dominant showing here. And there are some questions, right? Slight spoiler to the Ottawa Keiser game, but Ava Wallace did go down with an injury late in the game, and you know, that ended up having a tough result on that one here, but you know, it looked like she was fine, or at least the stats looks that way. 7 of 7 for 160 yards and 5 touchdowns. Only 2 of those passes did not go for touchdowns. But Adrian Rivera, it looks like she took the majority of the snaps, though, in this game, which makes sense. 14 of 19, 182 yards, 3 touchdowns, no sacks. Also had 42 rushing yards as she gained back some confidence in this one for sure. Receiving-wise, Dakota Moberg led 4 for 97 and 3 touchdowns. Madison Koger, 4 for 74 and a touchdown. Tramisha Harris had one long 46-yard touchdown. Ashley Clam, 3 for 42 and a touchdown. Serenity Simon, 1 19-yard receiving touchdown. Francesca Lera, 1 11-yard receiving touchdown as they would go ahead and unleash on Reinhardt. Defensively, they played extremely well, getting back on track here. Tramisha Harris led with 8 flagpoles, a sack, and 2 pass breakups. Right behind her, though, is Dakota Moberg, who had herself a day. 5 receptions, 5 flagpoles, 2 interceptions. You also had picks by Brooke Bowman, and Ashley Clam had 2 interceptions in this one. Playmaker of the game, in my opinion, has to be Dakota Moberg. 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. That's definitely big time for them. For Reinhardt, they continue to struggle. Alexis Wilson, 23 of 31, 142 yards, but threw 4 interceptions. Addie Anderson also threw an interception on 5 of 10 for 16. Wilson had 23 rushing yards. Receiving-wise, Nicole Roos led with 44. Actually, Blue McFarland was tied as well with 44 there as well, but no touchdowns for them. And then defensively, I think it's Sanaa Grow is how you say that. Excuse me if I'm saying that wrong. She led with 5 flagpoles. Nadia King had a sack, but not enough to beat number 2 Keiser, as Keiser goes ahead and wins 61-0. And then Keiser would continue to roll, this time over D2 Wingate, 46-6. Number 10 Wingate, mind you. Ava Wallace really looked good in this one and stepped up and got the majority of the snaps here. 18 of 25, 303 yards, 6 touchdowns, no picks. Adrian Rivera, though, also got in there, 6 of 7 for 58 yards and a touchdown. Not too many rushing yards, a net worth of only -1 on 2 attempts. But the passing game was going. Tramisha Harris, 5 receptions, 122 yards and 2 touchdowns. Ashley Clam, 4 for 98 and 3 touchdowns, as these two had a great game. Dakota Moberg, 3 for 44 and a touchdown still, though. Janasia Wilson, back, 3 for 23 in this one. And then I think it's Lencioni Gonzalez. Hannah Lencioni Gonzalez had a receiving touchdown, a 16-yarder in this one, and then Caprio only 2 for 10 here. But defensively, Dakota Moberg once again leading in flagpoles, 10 right there. Only 1 sack from Kylie Caetano, and then only 1 interception from Sarah Villarreal, but still very productive as they held Wingate only to 6 points here, which was scored by Yvonne Russell for them. But you know, this is a big win for Keiser over number 10 Wingate here, 46-6 to get back on track. Moving on, though, we have Bruden Parker versus Warner. Currently, or not currently because it's not updated, but as of last week, number 3 Warner, that'll be changing here soon. And this one was not super close. Warner continues their dominance of 50-plus point wins, 80-0 over Bruden Parker. Let's just go through the stats here. Catherine Hutchinson, 23 of 26, 298 yards and 7 touchdowns in this one, as she is on a complete tear. Serenity Hickman also got in there, 5 of 7 for 52 yards. Jessica Finley threw 2 passes, but one of those was picked. Receiving-wise, though, got a shout-out, and I would say your playmaker of the game from this one, Avalon Lux Offerman, 12 for 151 and 3 touchdowns in this game against Georgia's Bruden Parker here. Mariah Gordon, 146-yarder for a touchdown. Anna Vincentini, 3 for 42 and a touchdown. Maggie Lauber, 4 for 41 and a touchdown. And Jessica Finley, 3 for 27 and 2 touchdowns in this one. Like I said, the Warner offense going crazy, but I got to shout out, first off, the Colorado native and the freshman phenom, Avalon Lux Offerman, 12 for 151 and 3. That is absolutely big time in this win over Bruden Parker. Defensively, though, they also continue to dominate here. Serenity Hickman, Angeline Bunting, Marian Torero, all led with 3 flagpoles each here. Torero, though, with 3 sacks, which was huge. Bunting with an interception in this one. Adriana Williams also had 2 sacks here. And then, Mariah Gordon, 3 interceptions. Jessica Finley, 3 interceptions. Maggie Lauber, Andrea Castillo, Adriana Brustmeyer, Lauren Clark, an interception each here for a grand total. Let's go ahead and see here. of 11 interceptions. That has to be a record for the most interceptions caught by a defense in a game, as this Warner defense continues the streak of multiple sacks and turnovers so far, going to 3 games to start the season. Looking at Bruton Parker, though, just struggles. Sienna Johnson, 14 of 38, 109 yards and 11 interceptions. This was arguably the toughest team they played to date, though, so there is also that. Johnson had 12 rushing yards on 12 attempts. Tamario Williams, 7 for 55. Denasia Leonard-Potts, 4 for 27 here. Defensively, it was Karen Cummings that led with 7 flagpoles. Denasia Leonard-Potts had a sack. I think it's Makia Griffith. She had an interception, but just not enough to beat Warner. Granted, it is 2 programs in different spots. Got to give them a couple years here. But Warner goes ahead and wins this one, though, 80-0 over Bruton Parker. All right, now let's go ahead and go west and south here. We're going down to San Antonio, Texas, where, yes, you heard that correctly, San Antonio, Texas, to see Texas Wesleyan, the first NAIA program here in Texas to have a women's college flag football season and program, as they open up here against 2 teams who have actually already placed. You have Texas Southern, who I believe just played in an HBCU flag football tournament, and they won it, so there is that as well. And Concordia, who played against the likes of Cottey just last weekend. But they ended up playing 2 games here. In game 1, they played that Texas Southern team who, like I said, just won a tournament. They were hot here, and it showed as they went ahead and beat Texas Wesleyan 18-6 here. Wesleyan's quarterback, Destiny Hernandez, 17 of 28, 198 passing yards and a passing touchdown. Also had 1 reception for 5, but only threw 1 pick here, so not the worst. Michaela Nunez, the transfer from Midland, showed out here. 7 receptions, 58 yards, and a touchdown. Also 1 pass for 5 yards here. Second to Nunez, though, was Isabel Ibarra, who had 5 receptions for 71 yards. Also, 3 completions on 4 pass attempts for 25 passing yards. And then defensively, they would actually record their first interception in program history. Ava Alexander would go ahead and get that one here, and a pass breakup. And then you also had Michaela Nunez, who co-led in flagpoles, I believe, 4 flagpoles, as well as Ariel Duran here, who had 4 in this one. So a tough one. Not the worst, though. I mean, I wouldn't call this a blowout. They lost 18-6, still relatively close, something to build on, and build on it they did, as in game 2, they go ahead and play Concordia and win a thriller. I wish this game was live streamed. I was looking around everywhere for a live stream for this game and could not find one, which is unfortunate because, hey, anytime there's flag football in Texas, I want to make sure to cover it in an effort, because I also want girls high school flag football to be sanctioned. Shout out UI out there, and shout out the episode I did previewing Texas Wesleyan. Go ahead and sanction girls high school flag football in Texas. Anyways, back on track here. The Rams go ahead and win 21-20 over Concordia here. It was Isabel Ibarra who had a pretty big impact on offense for them. 11 rushes for 74 yards, 8 of 14 passing for 92 yards, 2 receptions for 28 yards, and a sack on defense, as she is your playmaker of the game, at least I would say there, just being super productive all over. Giselle Garcia also had 4 receptions for 57 yards and brought in 2 of those touchdowns, plus 3 flagpoles. Michaela Nunez hauled in 5 receptions for 55 yards and 5 flagpoles. Ava Alexander, another game, another interception. That's 2 for her in 2 games, also 5 flagpoles. And then you also have their quarterback here, Destiny Hernandez, though with less pass attempts, which is interesting. Only 4 of 8 for 31 yards and a touchdown. Also threw an interception, which does make things interesting. It's going to be interesting to see who Texas Wesleyan starts and rolls out with here. But for now, it looks like Isabel Ibarra had a very good game here in this one, and she will be your first playmaker of the game for Texas Wesleyan as they go 1-1, losing to Texas Southern but beating Concordia. All right, now let's go ahead and actually go back to the East Coast here. I was a little out of order. But we have Ottawa, number 1, or at least as of last week, number 1 Ottawa versus number 10 Wingate here. I believe this would be the first team Wingate faced that is ranked. And this would be a close one. Kodey will actually go ahead and do a full recap of this game after the D2 weekly recap. So make sure to go ahead and check that one out there. If you don't want spoilers, go ahead and skip 30 seconds here as I'm going to go ahead and just read off the stats for Ottawa in this one. So there you go. That's your spoiler warning. Skip ahead. Ottawa goes ahead and wins this one very closely. Very closely. Had to come down to a touchdown at the end, but 26-20, surviving a scare against Wingate. Anna Anderson, the freshman, had a good game. 25 of 38, 257 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also, 34 rushing yards and a touchdown there. Lead receiver for Ottawa is Jaden Bayron, 2 for 71 and a touchdown. August O'Deal, 6 for 39 and a touchdown there. And then Alyssa Linkus also caught a touchdown on 4 for 33. Defensively, Jocelyn Garcia led in flagpoles with 10. You also had DJ Paris with a sack, and then no interceptions for Ottawa. So there you go there. But like I said, they go ahead and survive one 26-20 over the then number 10 team in the country last week. Moving on here, we have Milligan currently, or at least as of last week, ranked at 7 versus Mars Hill, who in previous weeks was getting votes here. I believe this would be Mars Hill's first game, a D2 over there. But Milligan shakes off the rest from last week, and they go ahead and score 34 in the first quarter, 66 altogether to win 66-0 in a dominant one. Bridget Keiser back on at 15 of 18, 215 yards, 6 touchdowns. Ashton Weirley, hey, hopping in at quarterback, 6 of 8 for 36 yards and 2 passing touchdowns. Also had a rushing touchdown for 12 yards, so the hat trick for Weirley as far as passing and rushing goes. Then you have Milligan's Jasmine McDowell, 2 for 54 and receiving touchdowns. Weirley, though, also 2 receptions, 44 yards, and 2 receiving touchdowns. That's 2 passing touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns, and a rushing touchdown. It's been a while, I believe. Maybe a couple weeks, because I want to say Shania Spencer maybe did it. But it's been a while since you've had a player with a passing, rushing, and receiving touchdown, and so that is your playmaker of the game right over there. Caitlin Quinn, by the way, 441 and a touchdown. Annabelle Rhodes, 132-yard receiving touchdown, and then Lily Romero, 129-yard receiving touchdown for them. Defensively, they're in their bag with the shutout. 6 flagpoles for Parker Bridges that led the team right there. Taylor Thrasher with a interception. Ashton Weirley with another interception. Ashley Wilson with an interception here as they go ahead and grab 3 picks. And then no sacks for Milligan in this one as they go ahead and take care of Mars Hill 66-0 and move on. And then last but not least here, our last game on Friday, we have Baker facing off with Ottawa, Arizona. Yes, you heard that correctly. There is an Ottawa in Arizona. I'm going to refer to them as OUAZ because Ottawa is Ottawa. But Baker, I mean, you know, the number 4 team in the country as of last week, because that's going to change. They go ahead and take care of them 45-0, their first game of a couple games here on their Arizona road trip here. And this one was just not super close. Let's actually go ahead and start with Baker. Tara Lorente, 20 of 29, 216 yards, 4 touchdowns, 2 picks, but also a rushing touchdown there on 35 rushing yards here. Sanaya Waller had 2 rushing touchdowns as well. Kaylee Phillips, 2 passes for 26 yards. Your lead receiver was also Kaylee Phillips, 7 receptions, 122 yards, and a touchdown. Ava Alvarez, 2 for 38 and a touchdown. Sanaya Waller, receiving touchdown. Destiny Martinez, a touchdown there as well. I would probably have to go ahead and say that Sanaya Waller is your playmaker of the game. 2 rushing touchdowns, which is big time, just converting right there, and then a receiving touchdown, just being productive on the offensive side. Defensively, they're also productive, though. Natalie Bush, 6 flagpoles, 2 sacks. That led the team both in flagpoles and sacks right there. Gabriela Zabaleta had an interception. Kenya Arias, I want to say, had a sack in this one. Daniela Canales Maziel Peralta had an interception in this one. And then Faith Phillips with 2 interceptions in this one for Baker as they win big. For OUAZ here, Bryce Watson, 14 of 13, 56 yards, 4 interceptions as they struggled there. Sharifa Piamonte, the transfer from Southwestern, 6 for 33, but no touchdowns in this one. And then defensively for OUAZ, Madison Kennedy, I want to say, 6 flag pulls for them. They did get an interception, or 2 of them. Aaliyah Oliver and Sharif Piamonte each got one, but no sacks, as Baker takes care of OUAZ 45-0. All right, now moving on to the bulk of the NAIA games from Week 3, we have Saturday, the 28th of February. We're going to go ahead and start on the East Coast and go out west from there, starting with number 9, Weber, facing off with Bruden Parker here, and beating Bruden Parker pretty easily here, 32-0. Was close though, I will say, at half, 7-0, but Weber opening it up in the fourth quarter with a 19-point fourth quarter after a slightly slow start for them. Luz Ariana Herrera, 25 of 34, 247 yards, 3 touchdowns, but did throw 2 interceptions. Also sacked 4 times here, so like I said, maybe doing a little bit too much here, but they got back on track here pretty soon after. Haley Moult, 1 21-yard passing touchdown. And then Briley Cam, 2 for 2 for 15 there. But once again, it was Herrera leading in passing yards here. Receiving-wise, Riley Bolser goes ahead and shows that she is most definitely back. 11 receptions, 141 yards, and a receiving touchdown. I don't know if those are all career highs here. Well, the touchdowns aren't. But the receptions and the yards definitely have to be close there for Riley Bolser. You also have Ziona Shingles, 4 receptions, 56 yards, 2 touchdowns. Yasmin Lott, 7 for 42. Caitlin Sigmundy, only 2 for 26 in this one. And then Shine Duran, only 2 for 9 and a receiving touchdown in this one. But defensively, Weber's defense held it down as their offense figured it out slowly but surely. Riley Bolser actually tri-led with Chloe Price and Ziona Shingles with 4 flag pulls each. Bolser and Price each with a sack, and Bolser actually with an interception and pass breakup. That is probably definitely your playmaker of the game. Like I said, 11 for 141 yards and a receiving touchdown, plus a sack, an interception, 4 flag pulls. She did it all for Weber in this matchup here. Kalia Gator, 2 sacks. You also had Igiana Edwards, had 2 interceptions, as this Weber defense was very, very productive on this day, and also held Bruden Parker to 0 points. So another shutout for them, or a shutout for them. For Bruden Parker, the struggles continue here as they play ranked teams. Sienna Johnson, 6 of 24, 86 yards, 3 picks. Did have 51 rushing yards, though, but passing-wise, not too much going on here. Kinsley Guerny, 1 reception for 33. Abby Tawalt, 1 for 24. Nobody had more than 1 reception, which is kind of insane now that I'm looking at this for them. Defensively, Kennedy Osborne, 7 flag pulls, tied with Wanasia White, who also had 7. Sophia Souza, who is high-key having a great season for Bruden Parker. 3 sacks against Weber. Abby Tawalt with a sack as well. Also Tawalt with a long 45-yard interception. Unfortunately, the offense couldn't do too much with that. And then Mari Nyden with another interception for Bruden Parker as they fall to Weber 32-0. Moving on here, we have Point, who is getting some votes for the top 25 for good reason here too, as they are having their best start maybe ever to a season here, as they now start 3-1, now on a 3-game win streak, beating LaGrange 31-0. Kariah Williams, 344 yards, 36 of 46, 5 touchdowns. Did throw 2 picks here. Still got to take care of that football, but being super productive here in her first couple games for Point. Maybe the most productive a Point quarterback ever has been up to date. Receiving-wise, they're putting in some work here. Shanair Shahid this time led 11 receptions, 116 yards, and 2 touchdowns. touchdowns. Amar Davia, 7 for 104 and a touchdown. Kiara Thomas, 6 for 43 and a touchdown. Kenzie Fillion, though, still getting hers, 4 for 36 and a touchdown, as this offense was popping off. Defensively, though, also doing well. Shaheed led in flagpoles, 8, actually co-led, with Leah Prather, who also had 8 and an interception. Aaliyah Nathan with 2 sacks for them here, as Point wins big, 31-0. I would say your playmaker of the game once more has to be Kariah Williams. She is on an absolute tear, and I can't say that enough for Point early on here, so shout out her. Moving on here, we have Lindsey Wilson, who shot up the rankings, now tied at 12 with Campbellsville as of last week. They continue their dominance with a 95-point win over D2 Hollins, 95-0. Yes, you are hearing that correctly. It was 42-0 at half here, so they just maintained pretty much from there. Another big one, as Maya Pablo this time does not come out. And not only does she not come out, but she dominates. 24 of 36, 275 yards, and 13 passing touchdowns. If it was not for another performance that happened earlier this same week here, she would have had the most passing touchdowns in a game, except for now I think she is for sure second. So there is that. But continuing to dominate here, as is it too early to say MVP campaign? We'll see how it continues early on, though. Got to beat some more ranked teams. But receiving-wise, this time, Demi Sermon led 5 receptions, 65 yards, and 5 touchdowns. The second time you had a Lindsey Wilson receiver score, I think, over 4 touchdowns in a game. Cadence Warmer, speaking of, 4 for 61 and a touchdown. Jenna Lindsay, 6 for 54 and 4 touchdowns. Emily Good, 3 for 43 and a touchdown. And then Harper Gregory and I think it's AZ Madison also had a receiving touchdown for them. Defensively, for Lindsey Wilson, Emily Good once again led with 9 flagpoles. 5 of them were for loss, by the way, and 2 interceptions here. I don't think there were any sacks, as Hollins really wanted to run the ball, and it just was not working out. Harper Gregory also had an interception there, as Lindsey Wilson, dominating so far to start their program, 95-0 over D2 Hollins. Continuing on with Lindsey Wilson, they actually go ahead and play Ferrum, who was getting some votes here for a top 25 here, and Lindsey Wilson, number 10, Lindsey Wilson would lose 19-39. Ferrum would actually go up 20-0 at half. Lindsey Wilson would score 19 in that second half here, but at that point, it would just be way too little too late here, as Lindsey Wilson plays some pretty good competition here in Ferrum and just weren't quite able to get going fast enough. Looking at the stats here, Maya Pablo with some struggles, 15 of 34, 156 yards, but did throw 2 touchdowns in that second half. Did throw 3 interceptions, though. She also had 110 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown. Like I said, all touchdowns coming in the second half. Carly Yoakley, 7 for 65 and a touchdown. Cadence Wormers, 5 for 54. Jenna Lindsay, 3 for 35 and a touchdown, and then Demi Sermon only 1 for 8 here. Only 4 receivers getting receptions to start, or well, not to start, but in this game here. Defensively for them, like I said, some struggles early on, as it just kind of looked like they let this game get away from them here in the first half. Emily Good, 4 flagpoles here, but no sacks, no interceptions here, as Lindsey Wilson goes ahead, and I would say get upset, but you know, this is a D2 program in Ferrum, but NAIA versus NCAA, that is a debate for another day, as Ferrum goes ahead and gives Lindsey Wilson their first L, 39-19. Moving on here, though, we're going to go ahead and go out west, where Milligan hosts a couple games here to start this season. I think both of these were their home openers, in fact, as well. And it's going to be number 7, Milligan, facing off with Huntington College, who got some top 25 votes. And Milligan goes ahead and takes care of them. 39-19. Granted, was close. It was actually 19-12 at half, but a 20-point second half would go ahead and give them some separation there. Bridget Keiser on the money on top of it, 36-45, 369 yards, 6 passing touchdowns as this offense was moving. Receiving wise, Krista Quinn, 8-for-81 in a receiving touchdown. Ashton Weirley, 5-for-69 and 2 receiving touchdowns. Krista Quinn led, by the way, and then it was Caitlin Quinn with 7 receptions, 64 yards. Lily Rumrow, 4-for-43 and a touchdown. Sam Urso, 4-for-38. Abilene LaPrice, 3-for-31 and 2 receiving touchdowns there for them. Defensively, Parker Bridges led with 6 flagpoles and an interception. Newell with an interception. Lily Rumrow with another interception. And Blakely Allis with another interception as they go ahead and take care of Huntington 39-19. Milligan would then host rival Campbellsville. Campbellsville tied for 12th in the country. Milligan sitting right here at 7. And Milligan would dominate this one 28-6 here. Just going ahead and playing some great football. Bridget Keiser, 20 of 30, 216 yards, 3 touchdowns. Did throw a pick, but wasn't too costly. Also had 16 rushing yards there. And by the way, obviously in that last game for Milligan, Bridget Keiser was playmaker of the game. And I think in this one, it's probably fair to say she was playmaker of the game again. Because honestly, she played a patient game and, she controlled the pace of it. 3 touchdowns in this one, 16 rushing yards. As far as receiving goes, Sophia Anderson was their lead receiver, caught a long 75-yard touchdown. Krista Quinn, though, 6-for-66 and a touchdown. Lily Rumrow, 3-for-35. And then you have Ashton Weirley, who had one 20-yard touchdown there. Looking at the defensive side of the ball, Jasmine McDowell led with 6 flagpoles. Bridges with a sack here. Ashley Wilson with a sack. Michaela Davis with a sack. Chloe Jackson with a sack. And then Caitlin Quinn with an interception. For Campbellsville, just really could not get going here. Kareem Talkington, I feel like, didn't even play that bad. Just was not finishing out drives, it looks like. Kareem Talkington, 21 of 46, 204 yards, and 1 touchdown. No picks. Did take 3 sacks, though. Tamaya Woody would throw an interception. Only had 3 passing attempts here. Kirsten Pasma had 1. Madison Wooden had 1 as well. Talkington did have 31 rushing yards here on 10 attempts, so maybe running the ball a little bit too much here. Like I said, it wasn't the worst game, but definitely could have played better and finished some drives. No Alex Odom in this one, which is definitely tough. I think maybe with an Alex Odom, this one is a little bit different here. But Trinity Reagan, 8 receptions, 70 yards, and a touchdown. Monica Montez, 4-for-59 yards. Ava Kelly, 4-for-46. Reagan Coop, 5-for-18. And Michaela May, 1-for-16. For all I know, maybe Alex Odom did play, but I feel like I would have maybe seen something on the defensive side here, so it doesn't look like she did. Defensively for them, though, Amani Scott, 6 flagpoles here. Trinity Reagan had an interception. NAIA Campbell had a sack, but just not too much going. Like I said, only lost 28-6. It could have been worse for Campbellsville, but just went dry through most of this game here. So there you go there. Milligan, number 7, Milligan knocks off number 12, Campbellsville with this 28-6 win. Moving on here, we're going to Midland here as they play Heston. Midland, as of last week, ranked at 15, playing Heston, who is coming off a really big loss to Kansas Wesleyan. And unfortunately for them, that continues. Midland wins 39-6 in this one, getting their first big win. Lotta Wolf was on it in this game. 18 of 23, 224 yards, 4 passing touchdowns, no interceptions. Karina Alfaro also got in this one as well, 8 of 11 for 74 yards and a touchdown. Emma Rodriguez, 1 of 1 for 4 yards as well. Holiness Hodges had a rushing touchdown, 2 rushes for 6 there. altogether. But receiving wise, it was Elijah Livingston who just went crazy in this game. It is also your playmaker of the game here, but she went ahead and had 6 receptions, 132 yards, and 3 touchdowns. Holiness Hodges, 6 for 50 and 2 touchdowns. Emily Farron, 3 for 35. Alyssa Butler, 3 for 22, as well as Olivia Dominguez-Millsap with the exact same stat line there. As this offense was popping off for Elijah Livingston here, that might be 3 touchdowns, might be the most she's ever caught in a game. Could be wrong, but this offense was rolling. Defensively, they're also doing well too. Olivia Dominguez-Millsap and I think it's Natalia and Blaylock each had 5 flagpoles. Blaylock, though, with 3 sacks in this one, followed by Ducky Archuleta with 4 flagpoles here. Livingston, 3 flagpoles and a big-time interception there. And then Hodges also had a sack in this one, as Midland just dominated on both sides of the football. Unfortunately for Heston, the struggles continue here. Alexis Pabon here, or Pabin, I want to say, 14 of 37, 106 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick here. The one to catch that single touchdown was Liliana Espinosa with 3 receptions for 17 yards and that touchdown. Michaela Lucas led with 3 receptions for 38, and then Akiva Brown 4 for 32, as just not finding any rhythm here for Heston on offense. Emma, I think it's Finensteel, had 6 flagpoles, though. Also 4 sacks, which was a bright spot for the defense. Other than that, not too much going, as number 15 Midland gets their first win of the season over Heston, 39-6. Moving on here, Cottey goes ahead and plays Bethel at Bethel, and they win big. 47-0 over Bethel here. Renaya Griffin on a tear, on a 3-game winning streak now as well. 17 of 36, 203 yards, 6 touchdowns, only 1 pick. Also had 34 rushing yards. Tamaya Squire also on a tear. I believe this is a school record for receiving touchdowns for her, on 9 receptions for 133 yards. Dominique Duraco Franklin, hopefully I'm saying that right, 4 for 26 and a touchdown. And then Zilali Bots, 2 for 17 and a touchdown, as his Cottey offense is rolling. Defensively, though, they are also playing very well, and your playmaker of the game, in my opinion, has to be Renaya Griffin, who had a pick 6, but also had 2 other interceptions in this game here. Yes, you are hearing that correctly. 3 interceptions for Renaya Griffin. Defensively, though, Monica Blanc led with 8 flagpoles, also 5 sacks, which is a lot. Kaya Salazar, 4 flagpoles and 2 sacks to add on there. And then Bots also had an interception, as this Cottey team looks different as they roll over Bethel here. It is Bethel, but still a big win over them, 47-0. Looking at Bethel, questions at quarterback: Kendall Longman, 3 for 7, 20 yards, 2 picks. Nevaeh Gonzalez, 3 for 7, 8 yards, 2 picks. Jewel Carr, only 1 incompletion here. We'll see who wins that job. Jewel Kerr did have 30 rushing yards, so there's that. But not too much going for them. Nobody caught more than 1 catch for Bethel. Contreras led with 13 yards. Violet Haddon, 6. Eliza Bueller 4. Kendall Longman 4. Alana Thomas, 1. As they really struggled. Defensively as well, struggled. Kerr, Sarah Contreras, and Amber Clausen each had 4 flagpoles. Nevaeh Gonzalez had an interception, but really nothing else going for Bethel, as Cottey surges forward on a 3-game win streak to start the season with this 47-0 win over Bethel. Cottey also played another game, but I'm going to talk about that in a separate segment after this. Moving on, though, we have number 18, William Woods, going and playing Southwestern, who is getting votes for the top 25. There are people ranking them in their top 25. And this one was just not too much of a game here. I believe it's the first game for both squads here. Southwestern would score in the second quarter. That would be Kennedy Hayes, their quarterback, throwing a touchdown to Brooke Reed. and then they would also get the PAT, and that would pretty much be it. They would win 7-0, upsetting William Woods in a close one, as both offenses just kind of struggled to find something going here. Let's go ahead and look at William Woods first here. Shemaiah Williams, 14 of 26, 160 yards, did take 4 sacks, had a long of 44 here. And it was Giselle Sotero who caught that one. Let's go ahead and look at the receiving here. Sotero, 4 for 74, and the long of 44, but just could not make anything happen after that one. Asia Smith, 1 25-yard reception. Addie Schillick, 3 for 23 here. Hawkins, 2 for 13, as well as Nevaeh Boyd here. But just not too much going for William Woods on offense. As far as running the ball goes, Shemaiah Williams had 7 attempts, but negative 23 yards, as she did lose 31. I think it was also because she got sacked, so there is that as well. But offensively, just struggled to find too much going on here outside of Giselle Sotero. Which, I mean, I'm not going to say is on brand, but it is kind of what I expected, there being some growing pains on the offensive side. Defensively, I thought they did well. Only allowed 1 touchdown here and kept it a close game this entire game. But it was Anya Glasper who led with 7 flagpoles, also 4 pass breakups. Sam Menard had a sack in this one. Asia Smith had a sack in this one here. But just not too much going on here. They also only held Southwestern to 7, so there is that. I will say that. But offensively, you got to finish drives. That's what it is, right? Looking at Southwestern, though, not exactly going as great over there either. Kennedy Hayes, 7 of 22. Tough completion percentage there. Also took 2 sacks, but no interceptions thrown. Did throw that 1 touchdown here to Brooke Reed, who, I mean, I think right now I would probably say that Kennedy Hayes is your playmaker of the game because of that, touchdown. So there's that for sure. But, I mean, still a struggle here. 7 of 22, 68 yards. Did run for 69 yards, but it was on 12 attempts here, so maybe not the most efficient. Receiving-wise, Mary Jones looking to be the receiver 1 here, with Olivia Manfrey not returning this season. But 2 for 43. The only other player to get 2 receptions was Brooke Reed, who had 2, including that touchdown. So not too much going for them on offense either. Defensively, though, Andrea Moon on it where she left off last season, 3 sacks to start. Also led with 6 flagpoles, along with Lilibeth Rico, who had 6 as well. Kennedy Wesley also had a sack and 4 flagpoles, but not too much going on here. This was mostly a defensive struggle, at least you could say that, but it just felt like offensively both teams struggled to find a rhythm here. But regardless, it is an upset by Southwestern, 7-0 over who was ranked number 18th, William Woods. At least last week they were at number 18. So there you go, big win for Southwestern. At least a big win to start the season. Moving on here, we have Baker all the way in Arizona. They played a number of games here. One of them, they beat Benedictine Mesa in Arizona 46-0. Unfortunately, no box score for that one, but you could probably imagine a lot of Terra Lorente and Baker touchdowns there. And then they would go ahead and beat Arizona Christian 40-20. A lot of those points did come in the fourth for Arizona Christian, so there is that here. But Baker, being the, as of last week, number 4 team in the country, winning big, sweeping the Arizona colleges here with this one. Let's go ahead and look at the stats, though, for this Arizona Christian game. Terra Lorente, first game, I feel, where she didn't throw an interception, but still 22 of 31, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns. On the ground, though, 7 receptions, 53 yards, 3 rushing touchdowns there, as she is your playmaker of the game. Receiving-wise, Jalen Harris led, 6 for 78 and 2. Kaylee Phillips right behind her, though, 4 for 41. Mahogany Simmons, 1 long 39-yarder there, as that will pretty much be your lead receivers. Defensively, Kaylee Phillips and Daniela Canales of 8 flagpoles each. No sacks, or at least none listed, or interceptions for Baker in this one, as the defense, allowed a couple at the end, but, still one big 40-20 as offense was popping off per usual. For Arizona Christian, though, Katarina Macognano, 27-43. By the way, the transfer from Warner, 27-43, 248 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, no picks. Those 2 touchdowns did come at the end here, but all things considered, played a relatively clean game. Probably could have finished a couple more drives, though, to make it slightly more competitive. Rushing-wise, Selah Childress, 8 for 35 and a touchdown. McCognino also had 4 attempts for 20 rushing yards. Receiving-wise, Michaela Navarro brought in both receiving touchdowns, 9 for 71 and 2 receiving touchdowns. I want to say maybe those are the first touchdowns in Arizona Christian history, but I'm pretty sure they played in some scrimmages before, so there is that as well. Alina Tobar, 7 for 57. Genesis Morales, 2 for 40. Shea Gonzalez, 1 23-yarder there. Looking at the defensive side here, they struggled. No sacks, no picks here. Jada Grigo, 5 flagpoles. That led the team, but just not too much going for Arizona Christian, as they do face a tough Baker team here, only losing 40-20, which in hindsight is not that bad. So there you go there. One thing I want to mention here, Simpson University out of California falling to Nevada State, listed as a scrimmage exhibition, but I'm going to call it. They lost them 42-0 as Nevada State rolls on here. Other than that, if I did not mention a game, make sure you send me a message on social media here, and we will make sure to add that team to our coverage. But the rest, if there are some teams that are missing games, it's because I do have a couple here. I have Pratt Community College playing Cottey. I'm going to recap that one, as well as Ottawa versus Keiser and Thomas versus Life. Alrighty, let's talk about the big one that happened over this last weekend here. Number 2 Keiser playing number 1 Ottawa at a neutral site location in Georgia here. A storied rivalry, the rematch of last year's national championship here, and both teams in very similar spots. Keiser in a new era without a quarterback that was on the roster last year, without a Kennedy Foster, and then you have Ottawa without Madison Carrera, as well as a number of other athletes for them as well. So a new era for both, but still dominant programs. Let's go ahead and hop into this one. And actually, before we start, Janasia Wilson would play for Keiser in this one, making her season debut after missing a couple games. And so here we go. First quarter, Keiser starts with the ball. Ava Wallace in at quarterback here. Wallace leads a nice drive thanks to some throws to Dakota Moberg, as well as a out route throw to Moberg again to make it 1st and 19 past midfield here. Following that, 1st and 19, Wallace finds Ashley Clam, who then pitches it out to Olivia Rijo, who goes ahead and sets up a huge 1st and 14 in the red zone off of that nice gain. Following that, Wallace finds Sophia Caprio for 4. There's an incompletion, as it is pouring, by the way. It is raining hard here in Georgia. But anyways, that brings up 2nd down. Wallace finds Wilson, who it looks like lowers the shoulder. I think that'll be a penalty. It is not. Actually, I thought it would be a penalty against Keiser, but that would actually go against Ottawa, so now it's 3rd and 3 here. Wallace gets a snap, throws a dart to Clam, and that makes it a quick 6-0 on this opening drive with about 7:32 left. On the PAT, Wallace finds Caprio in the flats. There's contact again. It looks incidental. Kind of looks like the receiver accidentally ran into the defender, but they're going to call that against Keiser. And they're going to try that PAT again from a little bit farther, but it doesn't matter, as Ava Wallace rips a beauty of a pass over the middle to make it a quick 7-0. Now for Ottawa, it is the freshman quarterback out of Kansas City, I believe, and Anna Anderson that will get the start for them. And she goes ahead and gets this one started with the throw left to Marley Spielberg for 5. She then goes ahead and rolls out right and finds Alyssa Linkus, who makes a couple players miss and sets up a 1st and 11 approaching midfield. First down here, Anderson goes ahead and takes off for a solid gain of 9. On second, Anderson then runs the triple option and ends up pitching it to Marley Spielberg, and she goes ahead and gets a nice gain to make it 1st and 14 past midfield. After a drop on first, on second down here, Anderson rolls left and finds Spielberg, who sidesteps before pitching it left to Linkus, who tiptoes down the sideline for a free touchdown, it feels like, to make it a quick 7-6 on the PAT, though Anderson throws it. It's picked off after it is popped up in the air by Ashley Clam, but she picks this one off and she's out sprinting, pitches it over the middle. Can't see who it is at this point, but she pitches it again to her right, and she goes to the house as Ottawa not only does not get the PAT, but Keiser gets an extra 2 points here. Like I said, could not see who pitch it from that standpoint, but Keiser here in control 9-7 and getting the ball here. So here we go. Still the first quarter late first quarter at this point. Wallace finds Wilson here and then throws it away. That ends up bringing a 4th and 1 after an additional drop to that. And Keiser, being aggressive here, goes for it on 4th and 1 in their own quadrant. And on 4th down, Wallace takes off right and gets the first down here, setting up a 1st and 15. Following that, Wallace finds Caprio on an out route that goes for 7. She then finds her again. That makes it 3rd and 1. Third down here, Wallace sprints out and throws the drag to Serenity Simon. She gets them across midfield. That makes it 1st and 12. And then on first down, the last play of the first quarter, Wallace throws the out route to Ashley Clam. And it looks like she's getting held here, but nothing is called. That does go for a couple yards, setting up a 2nd and 10 for Keiser across midfield here at the start of the second quarter. Second down here, Wallace throws the drag back to Clam, who fights through the hold this time and gets free for a big gain here to make it 1st and 14 in the red zone, their second one of the day. First down here, Wallace scrambles. She goes ahead and gets 8. Following that, Wallace lofts a pass to Ashley Clam over the middle, but it is dropped, just going off her fingertips here. Third down here, Wallace throws the drag route, but she stopped short of scoring. It's basically 4th and inches, but that doesn't matter as they go ahead and direct snap this one to Janasia Wilson, who runs out left, wins towards the edge of the field here, and makes it 15-6. On the PAT, Wallace throws it, and once again, in this game at least, the ball is popped up and picked off, but Wallace does a good job hustling and getting the flagpole before that defender could break free for a return of their own, so it stays at 15-6 here. Ottawa with the chance to respond on drive number 2 here. Anderson scrambles for just 5, setting up a smart 2nd and inches here. On second down, Anderson throws the drag route to Alyssa Linkus. That makes it 1st and 18 approaching midfield. Following that, Anderson rolls right and finds the fellow freshman from Spain, Olga Sotillo, for it looks like a 1st and 20. Yes, 1st and 20 just across midfield, barely. After a drop that brings up after a drop and an incompletion, it now brings up 3rd and 20 here. Ottawa needing something here to keep this drive alive. And so here's what happens. Anderson rolls left and throws a dot of a pass down the left sideline to Marley Spielberg, who catches this one in stride, pulls away, and tiptoes down the sideline to make it 15-12 as Ottawa responds. On the PAT, though, it's overthrown, so it stays right here at 15-12. Keiser now takes over here for what would end up being their last drive of the half. First down, it's a drop. Second down, Caprio catches a really low pass here, or at least it looks like she catches the pass, but they rule it incomplete. That brings up 3rd down. Wallace gets a snap. She almost bobbles it and drops it, but recovers and finds Olivia Rijo on a nice throw right, who goes ahead and powers through some more holds here. It looks like a couple Ottawa players are trying to grab her flag, but they are catching her clothes instead. Either way, she gets the first down, so now it's 1st and 12 approaching midfield. after an incompletion on first and second down here in Wallace throws, and it's a nice diving catch by Wilson to go ahead and make it 1st and 4, now past the midfield. They are rolling. A couple plays later, it brings up a 3rd and 4 here. Wallace checks it down to Caprio, who bumps a defender out of bounds, as things are definitely chippy here. But once again, they call it on Ottawa. To me, it looked like she was kind of leading with that shoulder, but that's just my opinion. Like I said, both teams are getting pretty chippy. Anyways, it's now 1st and 10. Now it's actually 1st and 10 past midfield. Wallace then scrambles left for 7. There's an incompletion, and then 3rd down. Wallace gets a snap, throws a nice one over the middle to make it 1st and 16 in the red zone. Cannot see who caught that one though, but another red zone drive. I think the 3rd one for Keiser today in as many drives. With that being said, 1st down here. And by the way, that was another play where another Keiser player ended up running over an Ottawa player. And finally, they throw unsportsmanlike. So actually, it will be 1st and 21, technically still in the red zone. 1st down here, another pass kind of slips out of Wallace's hand, weird, so that's a tough incompletion. We're seeing a couple more of these. Most of these incompletions is really just the ball slipping out and just kind of coming out the hand weird. So now it's 2nd down here, and Wallace gets a good grip here, takes a shot on the post, and Tramisha Harris makes an excellent catch on honestly what might have been a poor decision because it was double covered, but when you got a receiver like Tramisha Harris, she's just going to make that happen. And also go ahead and add on a PI on the defense as well. And so actually once everything is figured out, it is now 1st and 17 in the red zone. Again, 1st down again. So here we go. First, Wallace throws the drag to Wilson. She goes for 5. 2nd down, it is overthrown. 3rd down, Wallace takes another shot into the end zone, but the ball is a little bit off here, a little bit behind the receiver. Maya Quinn of Ottawa makes a very physical play on the ball here for deflection to force a 4th down here. But on 4th down, Wallace gets a snap and finds Caprio, who wins off the line of scrimmage on a beautiful cross route and just runs right underneath this beautiful pass from Wallace to make it 21-15. A great touch pass right here. On the PAT, Wallace throws another great ball to and honestly reliable hands, finding Caprio again on the corner on a perfect throw to make it 22-15. Keiser up here by 7 right before the half. Now, Ottawa would get a couple plays here, but time would end up running out. And so there you go. Keiser has the lead 22-15 going into the 3rd quarter, but Ottawa does start with the ball. But on the first play, big time sack by Kylie Caetano to start this drive here. So starting behind the down markers here, Anderson and Ottawa got to get back on track. And that starts with an Alyssa Linkus drag, who ends up getting the 1st down here. So now it's 1st and 16 approaching midfield. 1st and 16, and then they throw 3 straight incompletions, and Ottawa has to punt. So not a great start for Ottawa here, as they did overcome the sack, but then just could not complete a pass here. Just being, I don't know, it just seems like they were off this game. Now Keiser would go ahead and take over with a chance to extend their lead here. It starts with a good throw to Janasia Wilson, who pitches it out for a couple more to make it 2nd and 2. After a check down back to Wilson, it's now 1st and 17 past midfield. 1st down here, Wallace checks it down to Wilson again, who pitches it out left to Harris, who makes it 2nd and 1 on the 16-yard gain. After an incompletion on 3rd down, Wallace finds, it looks like Madison Koger, I believe, on the out route to make it 1st and 14 in the red zone. 4th straight red zone drive for Keiser. On 1st down, Wallace throws the drag here to Wilson, who makes the diving catch here as this ball gets a little bit away from Wallace. So that's a 3-yard gain. On 2nd down, though, Wallace throws an accurate ball on the money to Clam to the back of the end zone to make it 28-12. An excellent read and an excellent throw here. But on the PAT, Sue Kaufman jumps yet another PAT throw for a pick, and that'll basically leave it at 28-12, as it's not looking good for Ottawa. They got to get going here at the very least. And so here we go, 1st down for Ottawa. They go ahead and find Linkus, who stops short of the 1st, making it 2nd and inches. Following that, Anderson throws a nice comeback route to Marley Spielberg, who now makes it 1st and 9, approaching midfield there. After that play, it's first down here. Anderson takes off for a decent gain and also gets held. So now it's 1st and 12 past midfield. Early incompletion on second down, Anderson rolls left and finds Spielberg for another comeback route. It's now 1st and 14 here in the red zone. So here we go. Ottawa with the chance to cut into this lead here. Anderson on first down takes off for a decent gain of 8. With less than 50 seconds left here in the quarter, Anderson runs out again. This time completely outruns this entire defense here and pulls Ottawa closer, scoring to make it 18-28 as Anna Anderson just runs the ball on Keiser, who just struggled to stop the run here on this drive. On the PAT, Anderson threads the needle to Tatiana Dos Santos, who toe taps this one in to make it 28-20, a one-score game here, only down by 8. And so let's go ahead and fast forward to the fourth quarter because basically Keiser would run one play, which was a check down to Wilson. That would set up a 2nd and 1 here. So top of the fourth quarter, 2nd and 1, Keiser still in control, but wanting to re-extend this lead. They throw another drag to Wilson. That makes it now 1st and 16. First down here, Wallace gets a snap, bobbles it but recovers, checks it down for a gain of 1. The next play would be another short pass that would go for 2. And then on 3rd and 13, Ottawa comes through big. Their defense, led by DJ Paris, got a big-time pass breakup here on 3rd down. And to make things worse, Ava Wallace goes down with an injury. It takes a while, but she is able to jog off as that will force a punt for Keiser here. And so, tough thing to see Ava Wallace going down, who has been so surgical today. But, Keiser's defense has a chance to hold them here. Ottawa, though, has the opportunity with the 1st and 15 approaching midfield to go ahead and tie this game up. After an incompletion on first down for Ottawa, on second down, Anderson scrambles for 7, setting up 3rd and 8. Following that 3rd and 8 here, Anderson runs around again, making the rusher miss, and this time runs for a 1st down and 19 past midfield. On the next play, Anderson takes off again, just seeing that Keiser's defense cannot handle her rushing ability and gets another 7. Following that, Anderson checks it down for 5 to Isabella Sosa, who now makes it a 3rd and 7. On 3rd down, Anderson finds Linkus, who brings in a good catch near the right sideline. That puts them in the red zone, 1st and 17. First down, 17 here. Anderson finds Olga Sotillo for a nice sideline catch to make it 3rd and 5 on a gain of 12. And then here we go, 2nd and 5 here. Anderson with a lot of time scanning the defense. And then she just ends up taking off, beating everybody to the edge to make it 26-28. Once again, the legs of Anna Anderson carrying this Ottawa offense downfield and getting the job done, as Keiser's defense really struggling here, just not doing a great job. But on the PAT, on the 2-point conversion, they do get an incompletion, force one there. And so that does give Keiser the lead still, 28-26. And so they take over with the lead, but it is Adrian Rivera, the other freshman quarterback, who comes out instead of Ava Wallace here. And so first drive for her, and actually maybe the first snap for her in this game as well. She goes ahead and gets a snap and rushes out left for 5, just stopping short, making it 2nd and inches. They then run something interesting. They hand it off to Rivera, who is in the slot coming around on an end around, takes the handoff and makes it 1st and 14. On first down here, Rivera throws the drag route to Sofia Caprio. That goes for 8. Following an incompletion here on 3rd, Rivera then gets the handoff again on the sweep, and this time throws it, finding Ashley Clam to make it 1st and 14. And so here we go, past midfield, 1st and 14. Keiser pretty much in control here. If they keep it on the ground here and keep it simple, they will be okay. But on 1st and 14, Rivera gets a snap, immediately under pressure, rolls left. She's right-handed, mind you, and under pressure throws back over the middle against the grain, and this one is just easily picked off by Jucani Washington, who's been waiting on this one all day, and it's the veteran who gives Ottawa one last gasp at this game here and gives them a chance to not only tie the game, I mean, we're past that at this point. It's time for them to potentially even win the game with this drive, but just a very unfortunate mistake, and I would even say play call by Keiser here on first down after the 2-minute warning. And so a lot of time really for Ottawa here. It's 1st and 3 approaching midfield. So here we go. After an incompletion, second down here, Anderson throws I think it's a flat route to Alyssa Linkus, and that is good for a first and more past midfield of 1st and 12 here as they're rolling. Dropped on first down, brings up second down here, but then the throw is a little bit too high. So now that brings up third down, but before they could run the play, there's another false start. 3 tough events happening in a row for Ottawa. So now they are in a very tough 3rd and 17. They have to get something here. And so this is what they do. Anderson gets a snap and they throw to, you already know who it is, Alyssa Linkus on a drag, who just gets some great yak yards here after the catch here. Almost getting the first down, mind you, but gets a solid 14. Now it's a very manageable 4th and 3. On 4th and 3, you could probably guess what happens, but Anderson gets a snap and she just runs it out here, outrunning the entire defense to give them now a 1st and 19 in the red zone. Ottawa very much in business here. Anderson throws it short here to Dos Santos, but her flag isn't pulled here, and she gets out of bounds, conserving time for Ottawa. Another mistake for this Keiser defense. On second down here, or before second down, Ottawa calls a timeout, so now it's 2nd and 13, but after that, second down, Anderson gets a snap, throws another comeback route. It looks like the same one to Dos Santos, who once again gets out of bounds again, conserving time. It is now 3rd and 4 here. On third down, Anderson gets a snap, and she throws the crosser to Olga Sotillo, who is wide open for the touchdown to make it 32-28. A mix-up in man coverage for Keiser. A defender just did not take the right receiver here, and so that is an easy throw for Anderson to Sotillo to go ahead and give Ottawa the lead here. Keiser is in shock here. PAT is no good, but the damage is done. It also looks like on that touchdown play, Anderson had another player on the other side of the field who's getting open over the middle. So really, like, they were going to score no matter what. This Keiser team, just not great defense at all here in the second half. And so here we go. Keiser not with a lot of time here. Maybe a couple plays here for them. But Ava Wallace goes ahead and soldiers on and tries to get out there. It is obvious she is not 100% as she is limping. And it shows as they go ahead and run a double pass, snap to Wallace. She throws it to Rivera. She throws it, but it is incomplete. They then go ahead and hand it off to Rivera, who gets it on the rollout. And she throws it, but this ball goes into the ground. And that is game over. Ottawa goes ahead and takes care of Keiser 32-28 for yet another win for them. At one point for Keiser, it was 28-12. That was the last time they scored at the start of the third quarter. And then after that, Keiser would not see the red zone again. And Ottawa would go ahead and score 20 unanswered points. You hear that correctly. 20 unanswered points to go ahead and win the game here. Their freshman quarterback really stepping up and playing here. She is your playmaker of the game here, the freshman Anna Anderson. Let's go ahead and look at the stats here before I break down and talk about my opinions at the end. But Anna Anderson, 19 of 30, 231 yards, 3 touchdowns. Also, 89 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns here in her freshman debut for Ottawa. Receiving wise, Alyssa Linkus, 7 receptions, 91 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Marley Spielberg, 6 for 86 and a touchdown. Olga Sotillo, 3 for 34 and a touchdown. As despite the rain and the tough starts here, Ottawa's offense was going. Defensively, they stepped up when you needed to. They got a veteran defense led by Jacani Washington, a big-time interception, making the freshman quarterback of Keiser pay here to go ahead and set up the game-winning drive. She also had 10 flag pulls, as well as DJ Paris with 10 there as well. No sacks here, and then that was the only interception of the game, as it was a pretty clean game despite the rain. For Keiser, Unfortunately, this was a really good performance from Ava Wallace. One could say if she did not get hurt, that Keiser probably wins this game and does not throw an interception on first down here right after the 2-minute warning, because Wallace was 29 of 42 for 231 yards and 3 touchdowns. She also had 22 rushing yards to go as well. Adrian Rivera, not bad. I mean, rushing wise had 13 yards, but just struggled to throw the ball. 2 of 6, 19 yards, including that pick that allowed Ottawa to go ahead and win this game here. Rushing wise, Janasia Wilson had a rushing touchdown for them. Receiving wise, Sophia Caprio, 8 receptions, 64 yards, and a touchdown. Janasia Wilson, 11 for 49. Ashley Clam, 5 for 44, and 2 touchdowns. Dakota Moberg, 4 for 32. And Tramisha Harris, I think, only got 1 reception for 13 yards this entire game here, as this Ottawa defense was playing well. For Keiser, they struggled. 20 unanswered points is unacceptable. Their lead flag puller was Caprio with 8. Caetano had that 1 sack, but that was pretty much it. And then no turnovers for Keiser forced in this game, as they just let one go. 32-28, Ottawa wins this one here. As for now, I mean, well, at that point, still number 1 with that win over the number 2 team in the country. Now, some interesting things would happen, right? If you listened to the NAIA recap, which in the order of things you must have already here, but Ottawa would actually play and lose to Florida Gateway after this. And so if you're Keiser, this is just a tough one to drop. I thought Ava Wallace played really well in the rain. Anytime she would throw like a tough pass, like it was incomplete or it slipped out, she would throw an absolute dot on the next play, and usually it went for a touchdown or a big gain, right? I thought she was completely on it here. The offense was rolling up and down the field until Ava Wallace got hurt. And then when that happened, I mean, even then, they still had a chance to basically ice this game. They probably could have ran the ball 4 straight times and just used time off the clock, used Ottawa's timeouts. And I don't know if Ottawa would have scored without timeouts, driving almost the length of the field at that point. But instead, just a very bad interception here made by the backup here that just put them in a tough spot. In addition, I mean, honestly, like, I wouldn't have even had, like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if throwing the ball here would have made a whole bunch of sense, or at least throwing something that could not have came out a little bit quicker here. And so definitely a little bit questionable coaching and play calling here. I mean, it's early in the season, but still don't love that. You want to definitely make it simpler for your freshman backup in a high pressure situation like this. But for Keiser, it's just a missed opportunity. They missed this one. This should have been a win, and they lost it. Now, going into the playoffs, historically, Ottawa has also beat them plenty in the playoffs. So, this is kind of one of those games that you look at right now, and you're like, okay, if you are Keiser, you look at this, and you're like, we have to finish games. I mean, you should already know that, but, like, you have to finish games. And then defensively, like, you just got to play better. I thought defensively, this Keiser team just let them run back into this game pretty much. And I mean, just looking forward, you're going to eventually play a Baker who has a Tara Lorente, one of the top, dual threats in the country. I have my doubts about how this Keiser defense would cover that Baker offense, is all I'm saying. Even Kansas Wesleyan with Shahira Owado, who could run a little bit, there could be some issues there for sure. I think there's a little bit of a weakness shown here by Keiser that other top-tier teams could potentially exploit. And so I'm not saying it can't be fixed, but right now it doesn't look good, and that's what it is. Now, looking at Ottawa, I mean, hey, look, they are replacing a lot. It really wasn't until I, watched the game, and I was like, man, no Carrera, right? No Abby Brown, no Camacho, no Addie Osborne, right? Or Osborne. And they still found a way to get it done. Anna Anderson, she had some freshman moments for sure, but I think she just did a good job of just going out there and playing hard, not overthinking it. I think her decision to run the ball, it won them this game. Keiser did not have an answer for it, and it was why, they scored 20 unanswered points. Ottawa has a history of picking quarterbacks who are dual threats, right? And they win games by having the quarterback run the ball well, and because of that, that ended up being the difference. You also look at, this receiving core is still reliable as well. Alyssa Linkus, it felt like every time they're in a 3rd and long, you pretty much knew Linkus was going to get it short for a big gain. For Keiser not to pick that up, that's on them. For Ottawa, it definitely worked out. Marley Spielberg had a good game, which, she's as reliable as they come. The freshman, Olga Sotilo, I felt like had some big catches here as well. And this was also a game where Tatiana Dos Santos only had 2 receptions too, right? But what I really liked was this defense here for Ottawa. Well, I don't want to say really liked, but you could see the experience in these seniors. You got a lot of seniors for Ottawa leading the charge, and of course there's a Jucani Washington that came through at the end. DJ Paris and Nia Glover doing their thing. Sue Kaufman as well. And honestly, I could have swore Talia McGinnis was out there, but I'm not sure if she was. I could be wrong, but this defense came through when they needed them to. And honestly, in a NAIA scene right now where you have a lot of freshman quarterbacks, you have a lot of young quarterbacks. Warner, Baker and Kansas Wesleyan, I guess Milligan too as well, are the only ones with experienced quarterbacks here in the NAIA. This Ottawa defense is built to feast on young quarterbacks, and unfortunately they didn't exactly feast, but when the opportunity came to do that, they did it. And so there you go there. This is a good win for Ottawa. This is a gritty win. It just adds to, the culture, and it's saying a lot because, the news would end up breaking out shortly after this game that the Sauer sisters after this season will be going to Nebraska and taking that coaching gig over there. So first off, congratulations to Liz and Katie Sauers over there. They're getting hired by that program to lead the first Power 4 school to have girls flag football. But they're not going to be going over there just yet. They are going to finish this season out here at Ottawa. It looks like they're the only coaching staff that is going to finish it out here at Ottawa, which, might be a better choice than what some of the other schools did, even though they did end up losing here later in the day to Florida Gateway. But for now, as far as NAIA is concerned, they're the number 1 team in NAIA. At least after this game, they are. And so that's a good one to get here. You want to continue to build the culture of the program, because I'm not going to leak the information yet, but it does seem like that the next coach for Ottawa will potentially come from in-house here. And so they're going to keep that culture going. It's important that they continue to win and whatnot, even though they're moving on to Nebraska. And with a win like this, it shows that Ottawa could still win the national championship no matter how many times they lose. So, with that being said here, that's pretty much it. There's not much more to it. Ottawa, they go ahead and take down number 2 Keiser 32-28 in an absolute thriller and classic of a game. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about this matchup from February 28th over in Georgia. You have number 8 Thomas facing off with number 17 Life as of last week, according to our rankings, in what would end up being a big matchup. Could not find this game on demand, which was very unfortunate there, but let me just go ahead and talk about what happened here. First off, no Destiny Lockett for the second straight game. I don't believe she had any impact here or played at all, so she wouldn't have had an impact there. And then it looks like Cam King would get the start at quarterback. So here we go to start the game. A Mary Logan interception for Thomas would set up the first Thomas drive, but unfortunately they could not score off of it. Life would go ahead and respond, though, right away here with a Cheyenne Brooks to Altiera Gooch Big time 40-yard gain to set up a 2-yard Cheyenne Brooks rushing touchdown. After the PAT, that would put them up 7-0. And then the rest of the first half would be pretty much uneventful. Thomas not really finding too much success here on offense. Life not being able to replicate that here until we get into the third quarter where Life has the ball. Cheyenne Brooks gets a snap, throws it, and it is picked off a second time by Amiri Logan here. This time, Thomas is able to capitalize. Cam King in at quarterback finds Diva Jones for a massive 66-yard touchdown, but they would not be able to get the PAT, so Life would still have the lead here. The following play, or the following drive, Life would respond with Cheyenne Brooks finding Altiera Gooch for another long 52-yard gain, which would end up setting up a 6-yard passing touchdown from Brooks to Caitlin Gibson to extend their lead to 13-6 with about 4 minutes left in the third. Thomas desperately needing to respond before this one gets out of hand. They would not be able to here, unfortunately, and so they would have to give up the ball, and Life would take over. But on the first play, Brooks throws another ill-advised pass here, this time picked off by Diva Jones and returned for a touchdown here. A massive one to give Thomas life, ironically, here, and make it 12-13. On the PAT, Ariana Christian runs it in to tie this game at 13-13. The next Life drive would end in yet another interception, this time from Ariana Christian, who picks it off near the start of the fourth quarter. Thomas would go ahead and take advantage of this as Cam King finds Diva Jones for another long 38-yarder to set up a 1-yard Ariana Christian rushing touchdown. That would go ahead and give Thomas their first lead of the game, 19-13, as it looks like Life is crumbling. The PAT would also be complete by Christian to make it 20-13. And so here we go, Life. They have to go ahead and turn the ship around here. And so here's what happens. Brooks finds LaToya Mitchell for 16. That would jumpstart this drive here. And Brooks would end up marching them down, right down the field here, ending where she started, finding LaToya Mitchell on a 6-yard touchdown to make it 20-19. On the PAT, Deshae Brandon would go ahead and run it in to tie this game at 20-20. Thomas would attempt to respond here, but Promise Cooper of Life gets a big-time interception off of Cam King to give Life a chance to win in regulation, but unfortunately that drive would fizzle out as Thomas would get a couple plays here at the end to maybe take the lead, but Kara Zachary would get a big-time sack to send this game to overtime. So here we go in OT. Thomas and plenty of these to start the season. Ariana Christian gets this one started with a passing touchdown to Amiri Logan, as well as the run in from Christian to make it 27-20. Life with a chance to respond. Cheyenne Brooks finds Altiera Gooch right away and then runs it in for the PAT to tie it at 27-27. And just like that, we have double overtime. Double OT here. Brooks finds Gooch again here from 2 yards out to make it 33-27. On the PAT, Brooks runs it in to make it 34-27. Thomas with a chance to match here. Ariana Christian in at quarterback throws 2 incomplete passes. Then they do suffer an offsides penalty, making it 3rd and long. It looks like Cam King goes in there, throws an incompletion, and that will basically wrap it up here as Thomas would not be able to score after that. Life wins over Thomas for the first time ever in program history here. They would go ahead and defeat Thomas 34-27 in double overtime. In my opinion, your playmaker of the game has to be Altiera Gooch here. Let me go ahead and go over the stats for Gooch. 4 receptions, 112 yards, and a touchdown. That was regulation, though. I don't know if that includes the scores she caught in overtime. As far as quarterback plays go, Cheyenne Brooks, kind of an up and down. She threw some bad interceptions to give Thomas a chance to come back into this one, but came through at the end here. 24-38, 259 yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks. Did have 29 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns, so a little bit of a mixed bag performance, but still good enough to go ahead and win this game. As far as receiving goes, you have Gooch, but you also have Deshae Branham, who is right behind her, 10 receptions, 60 yards. You have LaToya Mitchell, 6 for 46 and a touchdown. Caitlin Gibson, 3 for 32 and a touchdown. Defensively, Ianoa Garcia Velasco led with 5 flag pulls once again. Kira Zachary with 3 big-time sacks. I think it's Kennedy Robinson with an interception, and Promise Cooper with a big-time interception as well. For Thomas, it kind of felt like this was a game that was bound to happen here. Last week they won some games big, but in week 1 there were definitely some struggles that resulted in a overtime game against Reinhardt, which they did win. But now without Destiny Lockett, they have to find ways to win on their own. Cam King, all things said and done, not the worst performance here. 24 of 37, 322 yards, 1 touchdown, did throw 2 picks and took 3 sacks, though. They did go to Ariana Christian at the end, 2 of 4 for 6 yards and a touchdown. Also had 65 rushing yards and a touchdown there. As they continue to figure out their quarterback position, they might have something here with Cam King at quarterback. We will see. Receiving-wise, Amiri Logan stepped up in the absence of Destiny Lockett, 11 receptions, 120 yards and a touchdown. Same with Diva Jones. 2 for 104 and a touchdown. Ariana Christian also 5 for 38 there, and Azariah Greer 1 for 33. Defensively, Ulysses Hodgson led them in flagpoles again, 7 flagpoles. Yana Harris also had a sack. You also had interceptions from Diva Jones, 2 from Amir Logan, and 1 from Ariana Christian. Unfortunately, just not enough to go ahead and beat Life here. They won the turnover battle, but when it came down to it, just could not win enough drives, could not finish enough drives as they fall to Life 34-27 in this big time upset here. Alrighty, now let's go ahead and talk about this game between Cottey College and Pratt Community College here down in Bethel. This would actually be a pretty good game, and that's why it has its own segment right here. But Cottey coming off of a 3-game winning streak, including a game earlier today where they absolutely beat Bethel here. And then Pratt, this is their first game of the season, and they looked pretty good in this one. So let's go ahead and hop right into this game. When the stream picks up, it is basically 0-0 with about 6 minutes left in the first. Cottey with a 1st and 4 here. NAIA Griffin, who has been having a great start to the season, would go ahead and be the quarterback for Cottey in this one, who I believe in this game had only 9 players. And mind you, they already played a game, so there's definitely a little bit of fatigue here for Cottey. But anyway, start of the game here. Here's what happens. Griffin rolls out. By the way, 1st and 4 here. Griffin rolls out and lofts one left to Jonalyn Tolentino, who bobbles it, and Pratt has a defender there that is able to knock it away. So now it's 2nd down. By the way, they're past the midfield here. On 2nd down, it's a drop. 3rd down, another tough incompletion. And then on 4th down, tight formation, Griffin throws it to Tolentino, who goes ahead and gets a big gain to put them in the red zone here. 1st and 10 in the red zone. 1st down for Cottey. Griffin buys some time rolling left before throwing the post to Tolentino to make it 6-0. PAT is no good, so we stay right there. Let's go ahead and fast forward to the 2nd quarter here. Pratt does get the ball, but they go 3 and out. They get a 1st down, but then they end up punting here. And so Cottey has the ball with the 1st and 14 past midfield, but they then also go 3 and out. And so now it's Pratt back with the ball here. They get a 1st, but this drive really gets jump started with a long throw. Brooklyn Delgado to Jazara Silvera to put them across midfield here. A beautiful play for Pratt Community College. Cottey will then get hit with a penalty as well. So actually this will be 1st and 5 past midfield. After an incompletion here, 2 incompletions, Delgado goes ahead and finds Reagan Hawkinson on the swing route here, and she makes some players miss to go ahead and put Pratt in the red zone of 1st and 9. First down and 9 here in the red zone. Dominique Duraco Franklin, it looks like, gets a big-time sack for Cottey to push them back, making it 2nd and 15. Following a drop, it's now 3rd down here, and Delgado throws the drag to Jatavia Tarver right. But that is only good for about 8 here. So now it's 4th down. And so here we go. Delgado gets the snap. Under pressure, checks it down. It goes for no gain. And so that's a turnover on downs. A nice stand for Cottey. But Cottey, they would go ahead and get the ball. And after a drop here and a couple plays, they would end up going 3 and out here. So now Pratt gets the ball back with the 1st and 5 just past midfield. First down here, Delgado just goes ahead and scrambles left to make it 1st and 20 in the red zone here. First down, Delgado rolls right and throws it deep to Silvera, and it's on the money for a beautiful touchdown here. A great throw and great catch to tie this game at 6-6. PAT is also good, Delgado to Silvera, but there would be a penalty, so that'll take this one away, so it'll stay at 6-6. 1 minute, 15 seconds left in the half for Cottey. First down. Griffin almost throws what would have been a pick 6, but thankfully that is dropped. Second down is a check down to Monica Block. That's good for a decent gain of first down, but there's a lot of contact here after that. So that is assessed. So now it's 2nd and 1 here. Second down, Griffin scrambles left. She makes it a 1st and 10. Approaching midfield with about 30 seconds left. They hand it off left to Kaya Salazar. She gets a big gain going across the midfield and also getting out of bounds here, conserving some time. 1st and 11 here on the other side of the field. Griffin rolls right and throws a beautiful throw to the corner to Tamaya Squire, who brings it in for a big-time gain. Almost scores, but is stopped short of the red zone here. 1st and 2. Squire does go down with an injury here, which is massive for Cottey. First off, already short on players, but Tamaya Squire has had a great start to this season. She would end up getting up and walking off the field, but she will not return for the rest of this game, and so that does leave Cottey with 8 players for the rest of this one here. But after that injury timeout, Cottey comes out. It is 1st and 3 here, 1st and 2 with about 6 seconds left. Griffin gets the snap here. She looks for somebody to get open, but under pressure just ends up throwing it away. So that's a tough missed opportunity for Cottey here, but it is only a tied game going into the 3rd quarter. And so here we go. In the second half, we have a big second half here, actually. Pratt starts with it after a drop. After 2 drops. It's now 3rd down here, and Bots has to come out of a play, unfortunately, for this one, because she does get shaken up, so they sub in their last sub here, and that's unfortunate because Brooklyn Delgado goes ahead and recognizes that. She chooses to scramble that way, and after a missed flagpole, gets a huge gain here to make it 1st and 20 past midfield. Bots comes back in, though, but Delgado, already feeling herself, gets a snap, throws a nice crosser over the middle to Aaliyah Bailey. That puts them in the red zone here, 1st and 20, so back-to-back first downs by Delgado. First down here, Delgado throws it short to the flats to Samaya Bailey. That goes for 4. She then throws a wheel route to Bailey, and it looks like it's going to be an open touchdown, but I think her foot is just out of bounds here. So what would have been a touchdown is now incomplete. So now it's 3rd down here, and on 3rd, Delgado gets a snap, scrambles right. She gets about, I would say, 10-ish or so yards. It's 4th and 6 here. 4th down. Pratt looking to take the lead. Delgado gets a snap and throws it to Reagan Hawkinson, and she makes it a quick 12-6. Some trickery on the PAT ends up with Delgado once more finding Hawkinson, and that makes it 13-6. And so here we go. Cottey with a chance to respond. Griffin with the snap, sidestep, and takes a deep shot to Jonathan Tolentino on the post, who comes back for it, but then burns down the right sideline for a big-time Cottey touchdown here on the first play of this drive to make it 13-12. PAT is no good as Pratt's defense is able to stand tall there, but Pratt with a chance to go ahead and extend the lead, only leading by 1 point at this point right now. So here we go, a quick first down to Samaya Bailey, makes it 1st and 9 approaching midfield. Following that, Delgado scrambles right to make it 1st and 18 past midfield. First down here, Delgado throws the drag to Aaliyah Bailey, who makes a player miss before making it a 1st and 17 in the red zone. This Pratt offense is rolling. First down here, Delgado throws the dig to Bailey for a big gain. Almost scores, but it stops short. That's for 14 yards there, 2nd and 3. After an incompletion, we have 3rd down, and Delgado gets a snap. Makes a couple defenders miss before walking it into the end zone, making it 19-12. PAT is no good, but Cottey only down by 7 with another chance to respond. 3:37 here. Griffin gets a snap, checks it down to Charlotte Barr, and that's good, but they throw a penalty on Pratt, so that'll actually give Cottey a 1st and 16 approaching midfield. First down here, Griffin gets a snap, rolls out right before going deep to Tolentino again, who wins the one-on-one again and is gone to the house for a big-time touchdown to make it 18-19. Cottey not going away here, and Cottey deciding to go for 2 for the lead. Here's what happens. Griffin with the snap, directing traffic here before launching a tight throw over the middle to Bots on an absolute dot, which Bots brings in to make it 20-19, and just like that, Cottey retaking the lead with some explosive plays on offense. 3:17 left in the third here. Pratt with a chance to go ahead and respond. Delgado throws it over the middle, and Arya Alexander comes up with a big-time interception for Cottey. Almost returns it for a pick 6, but is stopped on the 1. So 1st and 1 for Cottey in the red zone. Griffin checks it down to Monica Blanc, who goes down here, so that is tough, and this actually goes for a loss here. So now it's 2nd and 5 here. 2nd down, Griffin rolls right, throws it incomplete. 3rd down, Blanc back in here. Griffin gets the snap here, then hands it off quickly to Salazar, who goes left and makes a player miss, walking it in for Cottey to make this a 26-19 game. The short-handed Cottey team up by 7 right now. On the PAT, Griffin throws a nice one to the front pylon to Bots, who makes it 27-19, extending the lead to 8 points. Now, about a minute left for Pratt here. Not out of it. They need to go ahead and score to make this one closer, though. Delgado takes off up the middle, making a couple players miss, making it 1st and 11 approaching midfield. Following an incompletion, Delgado finds Hawkinson, but that goes for no gain. Right before the end of the third quarter, though, Delgado gets a snap, throws a quick hitter vertical to Hawkinson, who gives them a 1st down right before the 4th quarter. And so here we go. Pratt Community College down by 8 with the ball. 1st and 17 here. Delgado gets a snap, throws the post to Aaliyah Bailey, just barely able to squeeze past a couple defenders here, but that is good for a 1st and 14 in the red zone. First down here, Brooklyn Delgado finds Samaya Bailey on the drag route. That goes for a solid about 5 or so yards, following an incompletion and a check down. It is now 4th and 6 here. Pratt really needing this one here. 4th down, Delgado gets a snap and throws a tight out route to Jatavia Tarver here. And that's good as she brings it in to go ahead and score and make it 25-27. Pratt going for 2, looking for a tie. Delgado throws it, but it is incomplete as Cottey still has the 2-point lead with 9:35 left here. They go ahead and start it out with a handoff to Salazar, but that goes for a loss here. Following that, Griffin is sacked on 2nd down by number 2, just holding on to the ball for a little bit too long. So now it's 3rd and 17, in danger here of a safety, and Griffin gets a snap and once again sacked by number 2 of Pratt. That is a big time safety to tie this game here. Pratt still needs to score, but it is 27-27. So 8:11 left here. Pratt with the 1st and 6. Brooklyn Delgado with the snap goes ahead and takes off here, makes it 1st and 2. Following that, there is a little bit of an injury time out here for Pratt, but you could just see in the Cottey players, they are tired after this one, as it looks like it's both hot and been a long day, as they are in their second game of the day here, but they are battling through it. Following that much needed time out here for Cottey and for Pratt, as the player is able to walk off, thankfully, and it doesn't look too serious on this one. 2nd and 2, Delgado goes ahead and scrambles again, making a couple players miss, making it 1st and 2 approaching midfield. This running game for Pratt working against a defense that really hasn't left the field, having playing both ways for most of this game at this point here. But anyways, 1st down for Pratt here. They go ahead and throw a quick drag to Samaya Bailey, who makes another couple players miss. That makes it now 1st and 6 past midfield. 1st down following that play. Delgado rolls right, buying some time before launching it deep to Silvera, who catches this one between the safeties on the post route to make it 33-27. PAT is good. That makes it 34-27, as Pratt is firmly in the driver's seat for now, but there is about 6 minutes left for Cottey. On 1st down here, Griffin throws it away, but there is a penalty for roughing the passer, so now it's 1st and 11 approaching midfield. But Griffin on 1st down sacked by Kiana Bradshaw here, who sets them back to 2nd and 21. Following that, though, it's another sack for Pratt. Shemaiah Boone coming in with a big-time sack to make it 3rd down and long, as this Pratt defense is looking very fresh here. Cottey goes ahead and calls the timeout. And after the timeout, here's what happens. Griffin with the snap is just taking way too long to get this ball out and takes another sack, as Cottey has to punt here. And so Pratt, they go ahead and take over with the 1st and 8 past midfield. Delgado finds Hawkinson over the middle on the drag to make it 1st and 16 in the red zone. And then the 2-minute warning hits. After that break here, Delgado gets the snap and finds Haley Little on the post over the middle to extend this lead to 40-27. PAT is no good. Cottey would go ahead and take over after this, but Alyssa Pearson would pick off the first play of that drive, and that would basically end this game as Pratt Community College wins this shootout 40-27. Playmaker of the game, I believe, has to be Brooklyn Delgado, who played very well, recognized that the defense was tired down the stretch and used her legs a lot more to go ahead and run down that defense before taking some shots here, testing that squad and winning in this one. So a big win for Pratt Community College. For Cottey, got to give them a lot of credit. They really battled down here down the stretch, but ultimately with only one sub and with that Tamaya Squire as well, just could not quite overcome it all here, but played in an instant classic. So a lot of credit to them for hanging in there, as it took Pratt a little bit to go ahead and put them away, as once more Pratt wins a classic here in Kansas, 40-27 over Cottey College. This will be Cottey's first loss of the season, but a great start to their season nonetheless.
What is going on, folks? This is Gino with the Playmaker's Corner podcast, and I got y'all this week with the recap on what happened in the Division III games here in Week 3 of the 2026 Women's College Flag Football season. This week was the final calm before the storm, as the Atlantic East and some other Division III programs around the country are going to be kicking off their 2026 seasons here in Week 4. As far as Week 3 goes, though, let's go ahead and check out what action we saw. First up here, we have Aurora University, who got their first win in program history in a 34-0 shutout win over Wisconsin Oshkosh. Aurora's QB, Kaylin Morgan, came in and lit it up, going 20 for 32 for 237 yards, 4 touchdowns, and no turnovers. Claire Strong caught 2 of those touchdowns, and then Tionda Henry and Jenna Grice both had 1 touchdown reception each. Overall, 7 different players had multiple receptions here for the Spartan offense. On defense, Emily Grabelchek, sorry if I mispronounced that there, had 2 interceptions while also leading the team in flag pulls, and then Jemiah Anderson led the way with 2 sacks. Next up here, Hollins fell to Ferrum College 53-0 in their first game ever as a program. There isn't a ton to highlight in this game as far as stats go here for Hollins. They put up -8 total yards of total offense here in their first game, which is less than ideal, obviously. Hollins then fell to number 12, Lindsey Wilson, 97-0. Definitely not the best opening weekend for this program, but they have a very tough schedule, and it is only up from here on out. Moving things along here, we have Huntington, who fell to number 7 Milligan, 39-19. Huntington tried to use both Kennedy Young and Tamia Carter at QB in this one, like they have done in the past, but both players definitely struggled passing the ball in this one, with both finishing with 2 interceptions apiece and only 1 total passing touchdown between the both of them. Carter did have 2 rushing touchdowns, though, and a sack on defense, but that was not enough to overcome this very tough Milligan team. Staying with Huntington, they squared off against Mars Hill and pulled off a massive 61-0 shutout win in that one. Kennedy Young had just about as perfect of a game that you can ask for, going 25 for 27 for 229 yards and 7 touchdowns. Kyla Rome was the number 1 receiver with 10 receptions for 96 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. On defense, Michaela Allen caught 2 interceptions, and Jaslyn Jones and Aaliyah Richard both caught 1 interception apiece as well. Next here, LaGrange took a tough 31-0 shutout loss to Point to move to 1-8 on the year so far. For LaGrange, NAIA Elliott led the team with 9 receptions for 58 yards, while also adding 2 sacks on defense. Also on defense for LaGrange, Gracie Scott and Carson Makuch, sorry if I mispronounced that there, both had 1 interception apiece. Coming up next here, we have Penn State Schuylkill, who actually played a few games this weekend. They went 1-2 on Saturday with a 28-6 win over Mercy University's club team, and then a couple of losses to Keene University's club team and then number 7 Milligan University. In the win over Mercy, Abry Brown went 15 for 23 for 200 yards, 4 touchdowns there, with 4 different receivers catching a touchdown. On defense, Amanda Burns caught 2 interceptions, and then Miranda Morstadt and Denise Espinal both caught 1 interception apiece. They played well in their loss to Keene as well, but ultimately it was a 70-yard pick 6 that pretty much put them away. Abry Brown went 18 for 30 for 261 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 1 interception, and her leading receiver was Miranda Morstadt with 8 receptions for 108 yards and a touchdown. Amanda Burns also caught 2 touchdowns there for Penn State. Finally here in their 19-7 loss to Division I Mount St. Mary's, they didn't have anyone standing out very much statistically here. Michaela Johnson had 3 receptions for 41 yards and a touchdown, and Miranda Morstadt had 4 receptions for 40 yards. Redlands University hosted the Redlands Invite, consisting of a few club teams from some big schools here. They finished the weekend going 2-1 with wins over Cal Lutheran and UCLA's club teams, and then 1 tough loss to Grand Canyon University's club team. There's no box score here for any of those games, but let's go ahead and look at the scores. Redlands shut out Cal Lutheran 20-0 before losing a close one to Grand Canyon University 14-8. And finally, they ended their weekend with a 19-12 win over UCLA's club squad. Going down south here, Texas Southern took down Texas Wesleyan 18-6 in both teams' first games of the season. No box score in that game, but it's going to be fun seeing more and more Texas teams join the mix here for women's flag football. Speaking of Texas, Concordia University fell in 2 super close games to Texas Wesleyan and Texas Southern. Concordia moves to 0-3 on the season as they are getting things set here before their first official varsity season in 2027. And that, folks, is going to wrap things up here for the recap of the games in the Division III Conference here in Week 3 of the 2026 Women's College Flag Football season. This is Gino with the Playmaker's Corner podcast, and I will see you all next week.
Yo, what it is, PMC fam. So glad to be back in the horse here for a more thick recap here, talking about Division II, and I also get to recap junior college flag football. But for starters, let's go ahead and jump into D2. It was a pretty interesting week this week, and so I'm excited to get into it. I am covering the week of February 30th all the way until March 1st. This is the last time I get to cover Division II this season, at least in regards to it being my primary focus, unless it faces opponents from other divisions. But starting off on the 25th here, Lise McCrae really put a boom out here against Chowan, beating them 87-6, 8 total touchdown passes between Hicks and Rivera, and this defense forced 5 interceptions in an absolutely dominant display. In this section, I also get the pleasure of covering a D1 program in Alabama State, an HBCU who played against Andrew College, defeating them 22-0, and also defeated Kennesaw State University 38-19. No box score was available, but Alabama State off to a nice start here. On the 28th, there was a lot of action here, especially in the Conference Carolinas, and I am so excited to talk about all of it, so buckle in, as this is quite a bit of information to get through. But the first one I'm going to talk about here a little bit on not quite a high note here is Mars Hill. They had a rough start against Milligan, Campbellsville, and Huntington. All of these teams are pretty solid programs on the NAIA level here, but they only scored once while allowing over 160 points, letting these programs kind of settle in. But they all played games before this, so let's hope that this helps Mars Hill warm up a little bit. Now, the Mount, on the other hand, from the Conference Carolinas, got off to a strong 3-0 start, scoring nearly 100 points and only allowing a single touchdown. Gianna Gaines scored the very first of many touchdowns for the Mount, but the first one in program history, catching a pass from Jenna Dick. Now, out of the 3 games that the Mount played, Penn State Schuylkill, I always mess that up, Penn State Schuylkill here put up the best fight, closing the gap to 12-7 in the third quarter, but Tabitha Newman would put an exclamation point on opening day of the program with a 26-yard score to help secure an undefeated start. Now, Barton would only play one game, but it would be one of the craziest eye-popping games in the history of the sport, as they would win by a record-setting 120-0 over Virginia Wesleyan, with Sawyer Rigdon here throwing a now record 15 touchdowns, 552 yards, and ensured that 5 receivers eclipsed 70 yards. This includes Saron Marid here, who had 192 yards, and no receiver for Barton scoring less than twice. Defensively, they forced 9 interceptions, and Valerie Ainge Bata had 6 alone. Just a dominant display. How will that translate against other opponents? Who's to say? But boy, as far as starts to a program, don't know if it gets much sweeter than that. Mount Olive also had their first game in program history, holding on to a lead over North Carolina Central here. Jaliani here, Lucas, found Zamira Rawls for the first score in program history, and that was later followed by an Evelise Martinez tackle for loss that put the program up 8-0 with a safety. Another rushing touchdown would increase the lead to 14-0 just before halftime, but the Eagles would show no quit and score in the third quarter and convert the PAT, making it a 14-7 ball game. The action would be concluded once and for all, however, as Maya George for Mount Olive ran it in the fourth quarter, sealing a 20-7 victory here. Something that I did find interesting as I was looking at this, however, is that this squad here did not convert a single PAT. Remember that 2 points as a part of their 14 was from a safety. So they went 6-8 8-14, 14-20, they are going to have to work on that, especially if they're going to want to stand up against some of these other squads. Now, for the rest of this conference, Ferrum here would make quite the statement, going 2-for-2 on opening weekend, defeating the red-hot Lindsey Wilson squad 39-19. After going up 20-0 in the first half, Lindsey Wilson would get a stop and score one of their own very quickly to try and cut into the lead, but Ferrum and Lindsey Wilson would just exchange haymakers here of scoring drives into the fourth quarter, making it 13-32 and insurmountable. Following that, Ferrum would breeze through Hollins 53-0 to cap off an undefeated weekend. Shreve finished the weekend with 593 yards and 12 passing touchdowns. Now, we had a pretty fun matchup here between Lise McCray and Emmanuel, and Emmanuel would actually start the scoring off after Kylie Warren-Young intercepted Mackenzie Hicks on the opening drive, giving a short field for the squad, and Lillian Stevenson would find Gianna Brown for a 15-yard score to take a 6-0 lead. The Bobcats would immediately respond twofold, though, as Hicks would find Hernandez de Leon on the ensuing drive for both the touchdown and the conversion to put McCray up 8-6. The Cats would then strike again before the dawn of the first quarter, Hicks finding Tammy Chatwood here, and even after that, an Ava Rivera pass would put the Bobcats up 21-6. The Lions would score late in the third quarter to make it 21-12, but that would be the final score of either team, securing the win for Lise McCray. For Emmanuel, Lillian Stevenson had a decent game, going 27-47 for 227 yards and 2 touchdowns, but threw 2 interceptions. Now, her leading receiver, Gianna Brown, was a problem for Lise McCray, going absolutely AWOL, recording 15 receptions for 141 yards and 2 scores, but the Lions are going to need to get others involved or others to step up in order to beat quality teams like Lise McCray. Now for the Bobcats here, Mackenzie Hicks went 17 of 39 for 201 yards and 2 scores, with the opening drive interception being one of the only blemishes, as she did not take a single sack all game. She also showed some chops of her own at receiver, catching a touchdown from Ava Rivera. But the leading receivers here were Natalia Hernandez de Leon and Tammy Chatwood here, combining for 169 yards and both scores. Meanwhile, the Bobcats' pass rush stayed good and true this game, recording 3 sacks, with Mackenzie Walker and Jaden Jalbert both recording interceptions in this squad game. Emmanuel would bounce back after that, however, with a very demonstrative 57-0 win over King to improve to 4-2. Stevenson tossing 9 touchdowns and 422 yards in this W. Now, one team that we're still trying to figure out where to classify because they are an independent here is Nevada State. They go 4-0 in their opening weekend, defeating La Sierra 51-20, defeating Arizona Christian 38-7, Arizona State 21-12, and then on the 28th, beating Simpson 42-0 in very dominant displays. I'm assuming that they're going to side with NAIA when they do fully go varsity or get into an organization. But for now, I am just adopting them into the D2 because we need more teams and NAIA is big enough for coverage as is. That has been my segment on Division 2, but be sure to check out my recap from the Wingate game against Ottawa. That was a classic. There was some other Wingate action this weekend as they did absolutely trounce Reinhardt here, 48-12. Just a dominant display by Sailor Swanson in this week here, throwing, first off, no interceptions against this squad here, or I should say against Ottawa, and then just going absolutely nuts. 20 of 28, 251 yards, 6 passing touchdowns, and 1 rushing touchdown in her debut. Addie Cadwell, another Colorado kiddo, being the lead receiver, 4 receptions, 98 yards, and 3 touchdowns. and Addy Cadwell also had an interception on defense along with leading in flag pulls. This is a very stacked Wingate team that I'm excited to see develop, as well as the rest of D2, but the next time you hear about it, it won't be from me, so stay tuned as each host has a unique spin and take on everything that we watch, and we compile all this information for our power rankings that always come out on Thursday, so buckle in. This one is going to be quite the shakeup. Just you watch. And last but not least from me on this episode is Junior College Week 3. I got to do a full game recap of Ottawa and Florida Gateway, so be sure to listen to that. But as far as other action goes, we're going to be bouncing back and forth between the coasts here because on the 24th of February here, we had Saddleback continuing their undefeated streak, beating El Camino 20-0. And then Ventura beat East Los Angeles 45-6, improving to 5-1. 6 different athletes scored touchdowns, and April Luna threw 5 at quarterback. Meanwhile, Sophia Moran had a pick 6 that started the scoring for this game. On the very next day, Saddleback continues to be undefeated, bludgeoning Pomona Pitzer 48-0 with a 4-touchdown performance from their quarterback. On the 26th, we fly over to Florida here. Daytona State took on the club squad of the University of Central Florida and notched a 27-7 win to continue their impressive start to the season. But just like that, we're back on the west side here with Cypress defeating Golden West 20-2. Mia Cabral here went 12 of 21 for 207 yards and 3 scores to 3 different receivers, showing a nice spread. And then Irvine Valley cruised to a 69-0 win over Southwestern. Nice. Regardless, on the 27th, moving along, you got to listen to recaps for that. And then on the 28th, Irvine here remained undefeated with one of their closer games, maybe their closest game so far of the season, 37-26 over Grand Canyon University. And then there is a full recap of the Pratt and Cottey game, courtesy of Simon Villanos, aka Coach V, and we also got Gino on this episode as well. Listen to what those guys have to say, as this is just an awesome episode and an even better and historic season of flag football, all brought to you by us here at the Playmaker's Corner and the athletes and coaches bringing it to life. That does it for D3. JUCO, my apologies, this week. D3 is going to be courtesy of my guy, Gino. You heard me earlier for a recap of an Ottawa game, yet I am not the NAIA coverage this week. I'm actually also the JUCO coverage, which must mean that I am going to be talking about the Florida Gateway game against the Braves here. This one was an intriguing matchup. I even thought about ranking Florida Gateway as my number 1 squad heading into the season. It crossed my mind. Let's see how that ages upon review of this matchup. So, for Florida Gateway against Ottawa coming into this game according to the PMC rankings, this is number 5 Florida Gateway taking on number 1 Ottawa, neutral site at Reinhardt for this invitational. And this should be a good one here, as both these squads with supreme talent and excellent coaching, a matchup that I've been waiting to see just to scale where Florida Gateway sits amongst heavyweights in the NAIA as a JUCO squad. And we knew that they would stick around, but they do not get off to a super hot start here for this ball game, as they have 2 drops that sets up a quick third down. I'm assuming maybe some early jitters, but fortunately a catch here will advance them for a first down, this catch being made by London Jenkins. There's going to be a deep strike down the seam here that puts the Wolves past midfield, but there's going to be an unreceived snap that puts them back into their own territory for a long 2nd and 25. There's going to be a short pass out of the backfield that sets up a more manageable 3rd and 16, and they try and get some double pass stuff going, setting up a 4th and 4, but it's going to be a pass off the hands of a receiver here, setting up a turnover on downs and giving Ottawa the football on their own 24 to start. But Gateway would show resolve here, not allowing Ottawa to cash in on this early stop that they had here, and they're going to force a timeout and punt here from Ottawa. Gateway now has the ball just outside their red zone, and they hit their center here on a quick pass. Angelina Harrell here catching the pass and skyrocketing up the sideline into Brave territory here. Florida Gateway trying to keep Ottawa on their toes, sets up a double quarterback look, and it's a quick pass that sets up 2nd and 5 until the red zone. And then there's going to be a shot taken downfield down the left sideline that is incomplete. Good coverage by Ottawa down that left sideline. That sets up 3rd and 5. In the Trips left look, they go ahead and pass it underneath to number 4, Hannah McIver, I want to say. And she picks up a first down and some before on the very next play, Martha Edwards uncorks a beautiful pass to the wide open post. And after the PAT, Florida Gateway is ahead 7-0 here in the first quarter. Ottawa trying to rally here, gets a quick pass left to Dos Santos, who gets a first down and some more down the left sideline all the way to the 35-yard line. But the Wolves bite back and record a sack courtesy of number 4, McIver here, who will end the first quarter on a positive note for Florida. To start the second quarter, however, Anderson narrowly evades the sack and gets away, setting up a 3rd and 8. And then Anderson's going to step left and drop it right to Marley Spielberg for a first down to the 35 of the Wolves territory here. And after a nice scooping catch by Ottawa results in a small gain, Anderson's going to roll left and break out of the pocket, sprinting ahead and setting up 3rd and 5 until the red zone. But a quick pass right is swarmed and broken up, forcing 4th down. And then after a quick pass left is pulled even quicker by number 15, Nichelle Brown, that's going to force a turnover on downs and give Florida Gateway the football. They come out here, gaining a little bit here, gaining a little bit there, setting up 3rd and 2 until midfield before they throw a quick pass to the flats right, and that receiver spins ahead and rotates all the way inside of the 10-yard line, putting Gateway in a spot to go ahead by 2 scores. Now the Wolves here motion right to left, setting up a misdirection and a high-velocity throw to London Jenkins, scores the touchdown here. But the PAT is no good, but Florida Gateway sitting ahead 13-0 here. How will Ottawa cut into this? Well, for starters, Alyssa Linkus will get involved here, catching a strike down the middle for a 15-yard gain, and Ottawa is on the ball quickly. There seems to be some confusion amongst the officials, and ultimately a flag is waved, and I wonder, will this hinder the momentum of the drive? Well, the double rush certainly will from Florida Gateway, and that collects a sack, pushing Ottawa back to the 20-yard line. And so on 3rd and 20, Anderson improbably slips a defender and chucks it from right to left downfield, finding a wide open Spielberg here to breathe life into the Ottawa offense. And now in Gateway territory, Ottawa trying to capitalize, but just as quickly as life was given, the wind gets knocked out of them as a pass rush forces an ill-fated interception by the Wolves, who will now start the drive close to midfield. The Wolves don't take long here as we get our quarterback once again. Just a couple plays into the drive, Martha Edwards winding up and uncorking a deep one to number 6, 4-6, Layla West making the touchdown grab. And after the PAT, it is now 20-0. Gateway trying to run away with this game, and they will take that lead into halftime before Ottawa starts with the football. Now, Ottawa here gaining a couple yards to Dos Santos, and then following that up with a strike to Spielberg over the middle sets up 1st and 8 until midfield. A pass left to Linkus is just a little too high and a little dangerous after being tipped, but a very physical catch right after that leaves only 3 yards to midfield. It's going to be incomplete, and now it is 4th and 4 with a breakage here via timeout, and Ottawa, after the timeout, comes out and trips right. Anna Anderson gets into her bag of tricks, veering left, swerving right, and along with a pitch, gets a first down and some past midfield. The Braves here show short motion right to the hash, and Anderson takes off, but great defense once again by Hannah McIver here keeps the gain very minimal. amidst a pressure, there's going to be an incompletion. And then Ottawa is going to try a jet sweep speed option, but that is absolutely obliterated here by Nichelle Brown, seeing right through it for a big loss, making it 4th and 19. And Gateway smells blood in the water, sending 2 on the rush on 4th down and forcing an incompletion. Gateway has the ball on their own 39-yard line, and they are trying to not be their own worst enemy here as they start off with a drop, and then an incompletion is forced by Ottawa, and then a throw right bounces off the receiver's hands here and is picked off by Sanaya Glover here and returned all the way to the 26 going in, hopefully giving Ottawa that spark that they need. This is not the first, nor the second, nor even the third drop for Florida Gateway this game, showing me that maybe that's a mistake that the team that I would have ranked number 1 wouldn't make. Who knows? But either way, you don't want to give Ottawa a chance to get back in this game, and they think that they could be in it here. But amongst this momentum swing, Florida Gateway stays cool as a cucumber here, and Hannah McIver still manages to get a sack here and pushes Ottawa back. Ottawa comes back in a 2-by-2 look, and the blitz forces a dangerous pass, and now it is 3rd and 9. They pass the ball. It's heavily contested and borderline PI, but the Stripes let them play, and now it's 4th down, and the drive is extinguished with an incompletion here. Gateway coming out, trying to put the exclamation mark on this. They motion into their 2-quarterback set, where number 20 here, one of their other quarterbacks, Emma Clough, I want to say, or Clough, she completes an insane pass down the left sideline. Once again, this is to number 6, I believe, Layla West. It gets a little fuzzy over on the far sideline, so it's a little hard to tell. I apologize if that happened. But that puts them just shy of the red zone here, and Edwards comes out and completes a crosser right after this to Deshea Pryor here. And for some reason, Pryor decides to try and do a little too much here, and DJ Paris, with incredible hustle, rushing from the backside of this play, goes all the way around the entire play after pursuing the quarterback and comes up to the ball, and during this pitch takes the lateral for herself and also forces a penalty on Florida Gateway, giving Ottawa a nice start at about the 23-yard line. The penalty and the turnover serving as some wind in their sails here. Alyssa Linkus looking a little extra motivated, going to the top shelf for the catch to the 29-yard line. And then Olga Sotillo makes another catch to set up 3rd and 1, heading the third quarter. Ottawa still trails 20-0 heading into the 4th, but will experience help launch them back into this game? Well, stay tuned, as there's going to be an excellent crash down by Florida Gateway linebacker, setting up a difficult 4th and short, but a penalty on 4th down gives the Braves more to work with. Now, the Braves here show something that I haven't seen quite yet. Olivia Cadiz comes out at quarterback, and they go into a double quarterback look, throwing it to Anderson, who then throws it to Jada Barron here, who makes a catch and puts them just inside the 30-yard line. And then once again, Olivia takes the snap here at quarterbacks, uncorks one to the right, and it is caught once again by Jada, just absolutely having a monster week here against whoever she's playing against. And that arm strength by Olivia is on full display. Barron scoring a touchdown, and while the PAT is no good, it is now only a 20-6 deficit. On the next possession here, Florida Gateway, they just milk the clock out, play mistake-free football. They should walk away with a win over the number 1 team in the country here. And after Edwards runs for a short gain, Gateway here goes with a check down that converts to a first. But Edwards drops back and just makes a poor decision here and immediately pays for it as Glover gets her second interception of the game. Ottawa here trying to maintain a head full of steam and have another chance. They take a shot down the left sideline, but that gets called for offensive pass interference, and that pushes the Braves back. And number 15, Nichelle Brown, loves the sound of that, and she says, "I want more," blowing up the double quarterback play design for a major loss here, and this pushes Ottawa back even further. Olga Sotillo makes the next catch and gets just past midfield here. But on that play, Florida Gateway loses Addie Hood here to what looks like a tough injury, getting carried off the field here. Addie, we hope that you make a speedy recovery and we hope everything is okay. But that is definitely something to monitor heading further into the season here, especially because this roster, I mean, it's adequately sized, but it's not to the proportions of a Keiser, of an Ottawa, of a Warner here. And so that's something that is worth considering as we head further into rankings and whatnot. But Florida Gateway, FGWC, says that they want to get a stop here. Will they be able to do it? Who knows? After Ottawa makes another completion and it's even more manageable and they convert a first down to go inside the 20. The Braves eventually find themselves only a few yards away from the end zone, but Olivia here makes a poor decision. She telegraphs the pass, and number 8, Miss Pryor, avenges her mistake from earlier, not only jumping the route and forcing an interception, but housing it and ending this game 27-7. Florida Gateway pulls off the upset here against number 1 Ottawa just shortly after they had proven themselves and really showed some grit through some crazy NAIA matchups that they had survived. Now, for Ottawa, what do I think about this game? Obviously, I don't even see that it's on their schedule, so I'm not sure how much stock they're putting into this, but I think it shows some blemishes, right? The pass rush for Florida Gateway was absolutely incredible this game. Anna Anderson was more uncomfortable than she had been, in my opinion, through the Keiser as well as the other game against Wingate here. We got to see a little bit of Olivia Cadiz here, and she has a powerful arm, but that decision at the end, I don't know if there was enough time to come back fully, but boy, was that just a gut punch. So Ottawa, they're still going to be fine. I still think that they're a national contender. They're always better after losing early in this season, and I think that this is going to be a real meshing point, and you could just kind of tell from this tournament, despite them coming out of it 2-1, and obviously still being one of the best teams in the country, that, things are different. You can notice that there's not Madison Carrera out there. You can notice that Camacho's not out there. And the list goes on, right? But despite all of that, they are still championship pedigree. There's still plenty of experience. Anna Anderson is very intriguing. I think that she's going to be very good. She's going to put up great numbers throughout this season. And I feel really bad for the teams that are playing them fresh off of this loss. And I think that Anderson more matches an earlier version of Madison Carrera, who was a bit more run happy. And obviously the Sowers sisters were able to get her all squared away and make her the greatest quarterback to play this game on the NAIA level. But it is an interesting loss, and you did see how uncomfortable she was with the pass rush in Ottawa. They started throwing 2 blockers out there. They started throwing out 2 quarterback looks, which is super unconventional for Ottawa. So I found that to be quite interesting, despite what their normal tendencies are and what Florida Gateway was able to force them to do. Now, Florida Gateway, on the other hand, like I said, this is one of the best teams in the country. It's fun to watch Martha Edwards. She has an absolutely powerful arm here, still prone to make mistakes, but she stretches the field in ways that I think a lot of quarterbacks in the country cannot stretch fields. And to back it up, Florida Gateway has the athletes: London Jenkins, Layla West, Diashea Pryor, I'm really sorry, Pryor, if I am saying that wrong. All of these athletes are incredible and can get behind the defense and really make you pay. Angelina Harrell did really well at the center spot here and was making some plays this game after the catch. Nichelle Brown was incredible at the linebacker spot. She's incredibly versatile. She's very fast. She's super instinctual and just recognizes the game super duper well. High football IQ out of Nichelle Brown. Very, very fun to watch. And then pass rush wise, Hannah McIver, she was an absolute game wrecker in this and representing Georgia in all of the best ways from the rush position. Just dominant, fast, sure flag puller, minimizing the threat that Anna Anderson is. And I think that for other teams watching, you kind of see maybe not the blueprint, but you see some ideas that you like that this Florida Gateway team was able to achieve defensively to try and stave off the offensive onslaught of Ottawa here. The Ottawa offense just not always in sync this past week, but that's what the early part of the season is for. They tested themselves against some very good opponents, obviously in Florida Gateway, obviously in Keiser, and also surprisingly to some, not us here at the pod, Wingate as well. So, it was cool to watch these teams duke it out. It was nice that there was a stream for all of it, and it was nice that there was also just an attendance, and the fans were going crazy as well. They were super invested, and this was a well-traveled game that was a lot of fun to cover, and I'm really glad that I got to do the recap for this one. And this is the last recap for me this week as far as full in-game recaps. Be sure to check out some of our other recaps via Coach V, as well as our full classification recaps, as I got D2 and JUCO this week. Well, folks, it is here. We are talking about a D2 versus NAIA matchup, another classic game that came out of this Reinhardt Invitational. And this one is between our number 1 Ottawa Braves as well as our number 10 Wingate flag football team here. Wingate here looking to make a name for themselves and put the Bulldogs and the Conference Carolinas on notice with their first action of the spring season. So, without further ado here, how do the new kids on the block hang with the only national champions? Well, I'm going to go ahead and get into that as we do start with a Wingate possession here and a quick throw right that sets up 2nd and 2. This is right before a jet sweep narrowly picks up a first down with Janelle Francis here. You're going to hear this name quite a bit today, as she had quite a day with another target going her way immediately after and setting up 2nd and 12. And then it's Janelle Francis again, this time running through flagpole attempts all the way into Ottawa territory, setting up on the 35-yard line. Quarterback Sailor Swanson takes off and is dragged down here. But then on the very next play, there is a wheel stop route here by Yvonne Brustel here that picks up a chunk of yards and sets up a 3rd and 1 or 2. But that's going to be disconnected quite soon here, as a quarterback draw is just absolutely read like a book and then ransacked by DJ Paris here, setting up 4th and 5. Wingate's going to call a timeout here, but that is not going to be enough, as the wheel stop to the other side is open but just does not connect, giving Ottawa the ball at the 24. There is a strike over the middle here from quarterback Anna Anderson to our very own number 9, Olga Sotillo here out of Spain, making the catch and getting the ball to the 31-yard line. Anderson then takes off for a very short gain, but a deep shot to Spielberg is just a little too far, and Ottawa will actually punt on their opening offensive possession. So trading blows here early on, and so Wingate has the ball with 1st and 1 before a strike to Francis here puts them to the 24-yard line for a gain of 5 and a first down. There's then a pass right that picks up a gain to the 29-yard line and leaves about 11 yards for a first down. And they'll cut that in half on the next play, but it's still deep in their own territory, so they are going to punt here and give Ottawa the ball at the 15-yard line. That's immediately followed up by a big-time Yvonne sack here to push the Ottawa drive inside of their own 10-yard line. And after an incompletion, it is now 3rd and 12 for Ottawa, as they are deep in a pit here with their backs against the wall. But Anderson remains cool, steps back, and drops a beautifully placed ball here to Olga, who picks up a first down on a quarter route just before the quarter ends. And Anderson just showing phenomenal touch and placement on this pass and is trying to ride that wave into the second quarter. Now they start off getting the ball to Isabel Sosa, very speedy here, catching the ball, getting upfield very quickly to the 36-yard line, setting up 2nd and 4. But 2 incompletions following this pickup will dry up this drive and force a punt. Now the punt's a little scary as Wingate almost bobbles it right back to Ottawa here, but there's not a whole lot going on this drive, and so they're going to have to go 3 and out and punt anyway. Now, Ottawa starts on the 31 after a pretty neat return, and we're going back to the well here with Isabel Sosa catching it and firing ahead all the way to the 34 of Wingate before stepping out of bounds. Now that Ottawa is back in the Dogs' territory, they'll keep going back to it because if it's not broken, don't fix it, and after a drop, it's caught the very next time and sets up 3rd and 11. On this next play, Anderson steps back and throws a slant to Tatiana Dos Santos, who makes a strong catch, making this 4th down a lot more manageable, setting up 4th and 4. However, Wingate has alternative plans here, and Yvonne makes a stop with a big flagpole and forces a turnover on downs. This is just an absolute gridlock with big plays being made by players on both sides here. Now, this will, unfortunately for Wingate, they are not able to capitalize here, and so Ottawa will get the ball back and immediately almost make some noise here as a deep shot was just inches away from being a touchdown, but instead the incompletion will make it 2nd and 1. But Anderson snatches some ankles, keeping the play alive, and goes to a check down that picks up a gain to the 25 for a 1st down. Spielberg then makes the next catch, setting up 2nd and 10, and Ottawa is on the ball super quickly. Another pass is caught and out of bounds, setting up 3rd and 8, before Anderson throws just another great pass over the middle to Dos Santos, who knows just where her teammate is, Jada Barron here, and she throws a lateral that Barron catches and runs all the way inside of the 10-yard line here, being stopped just before the end zone here with 51 seconds left in the half. And after some time goes by here, Ottawa's going to line up, smelling blood in the water, and they just have a beautifully designed play that creates a wide open Olga Sotillo here to help Ottawa strike first. And after converting on the 1-point PAT, it is 7-0, Ottawa leading with 40 seconds in the half. Wingate here coming out with a pass for a 1st down to the 24, and then they follow that up with a pass to Addie Cadwell here underneath, who laterals it, but the lateral is forward, and so that's going to push them back down the ladder of the field to the 22-yard line, and now it's 3rd and forever after a Wingate penalty. But Ottawa commits a somewhat silly penalty, but given the time, there's just not enough to really capitalize, and so Ottawa will take a 7-0 lead into the half, and they will come out with the football. And they will waste absolutely no time as Anderson finds Barron here right down the middle, slicing all the way through the defense, right down the heart of the field, and she will not be caught this time. Touchdown, Braves here. The PAT is no good, but only 14 seconds. You heard it here first. 14 seconds into the second half here, Ottawa takes a 2-score lead. Now it is the Bulldogs' ball here. They need to respond now going down 2 scores if they want to have a chance in this game. And this is going to be just short of a 1st down here as it's a swing pass to Francis. But on the very next play, Swanson is going to roll left and throw a nice pass that's going to be caught for a 1st down to the 28-yard line. This catch was made by Nadalyn Lumpkin here out of Central High School to advance this drive. The next play, Brewster makes a catch here to the 34. And on 3rd and 6, they're going to throw a hitch to Francis, who makes a few defenders miss and slips all the way to the 23-yard line of Ottawa. On the next play, they're going to have a couple of checkdowns here back-to-back that makes it shy of a first. It's 3rd and 1. Swanson winds up, fires a pass over to the right side to Addison Morgan, who makes a tough catch on a tough throw in traffic, reeling it in and setting up 1st and goal for the Bulldogs. Now, they try and hit Ottawa over the top here, and that does not work, but it does yield a pass interference that puts them on the 10-yard line. They come out in a stack formation. The back receiver breaks diagonally to the end zone, and it is caught by Natalie Lumpkin here. Touchdown, Wingate. The PAT is no good, but they cut the deficit to just one score, and they follow it up here by forcing a 3-and-out. Huge pass breakup on this possession by Matty Jones here that almost intercepts the football, and after a pass is not caught, they're going to have to punt here. Ottawa back to Wingate, trying to swing this pendulum back in their favor. Wingate comes out. They have a motion that draws away attention, and just like that, Wingate is past midfield with Janelle Francis making another catch and advancing all the way to the 34-yard line of Ottawa. Lumpkin gets the very next catch to about the 30-ish, setting up 2nd and 10, and they followed up with a levels concept. Francis underneath, putting Wingate into a manageable 3rd and 6, but after throwing an incompletion on 3rd down, it is 4th down. What to do now? We have a breakage in time here, and upon the exit of the timeout here, Wingate comes out in a deuce formation, but then shifts into the equivalent of an ace here. Swanson rolls right, throws back across her body, finding Addie Cadwell for a 1st down into the red zone here, keeping this drive and the Bulldogs' hopes alive here to try and tie this game up. Now, Francis is going to make the very next catch here, and it takes 3 defenders to get her before finally the 3rd quarter wraps up. And so in the 4th quarter here, Saylor is going to run around, not really find anything, and that brings up 4th and about 6 or 7 until the promised land, and there is a timeout taken here. Both teams strategizing, trying to play a little bit of a chess match here, and Wingate obviously understanding the gravity of the situation that they absolutely need a stop here. Now, Swanson, under pressure, sliding left, with the defender in her face, sailing away, throws it left, and she's bumped into as she throws it, and it's caught by number 15, Addie Cadwell. Another Colorado to Colorado connection here, brought to you by Wingate, and that touchdown is going to cut it to just a 1-point lead. But Wingate, they're not here to play for ties. They're playing risky for the biscuit here, and they go for 2, and they even draw a penalty on their first attempt to make it a 5-yard 2-point conversion. But Ottawa, staying stingy and experienced as ever, clamps up and maintains the 13-12 lead. Ottawa here now with the football, trying to push this game away, comes out with Anna Anderson scrambling very short and gets a quick little gain here. And then right after that finds number 11, Sosa, on 2nd down, who picks up a 1st down. Anderson then wiggles out on the very next play and finds Olga Sotillo here, who comes back to the ball very aggressively and beautifully, advancing Ottawa to the 32-yard line. Now, a wheel route here from Ottawa almost gets Wingate in a really bad spot. They commit a penalty here, and that advances Ottawa all the way to the 39-yard line. And this time they have Marley Spielberg back as the screen blocker, and it becomes apparent why that's nice, as she gets the check down here and advances to the 36 of Wingate for a 1st down. Ottawa doing a great job, eating some serious clock here, maintaining a methodical pace here, and also putting Sosa here at center while getting Alyssa Linkus some looks in the slot, switching things up just a little bit. But despite all of that, Wingate has some good coverage here, forcing incompletions and just short gains. But on a long 3rd down, Anderson is going to roll right and throw left, finding Dos Santos over the middle, creating another 4th and very manageable 2 or 3. And Dos Santos, get used to hearing that name. She makes another big catch over the middle, working right to left, crashing another 1st down hope for Wingate, trying to force a turnover. That is not going to happen with Tatiana on the field here, and Ottawa now in the red zone. There's also some flags that fly as well, and that pushes the ball inwards for Ottawa, making it 1st and 5 in the red zone. They motion right to left for Dos Santos, and after leaking out left here, Anderson looks at Dos Santos, doesn't like it. Tatiana pivots back inside, taking her defender with her, and Anderson sees a lane, sprints towards that left pylon, and scores another touchdown here. And on top of that, Anderson is going to sling this PAT inbounds, making it a 20-12 score. Wingate, a little slow to start their drive, are going to have a penalty here. And so they have a little bit of a hole, and they need not only a touchdown, but also a 2-point conversion here as time is ticking away. But despite the penalty here, Francis is going to cash in and get a catch that picks up a first down, and then have herself another catch that advances to the 34-yard line. Swanson then rolls right and throws right, once again finding number 5, Addison Morgan on this one, who sprints up the sideline after a missed flagpole and gains a bit more to the 27 of Ottawa. Just like that, they are just outside the red zone by a handful of yards. And Cadwell keeps that motion going, catching a small flat route here and advancing it all the way to the 21-yard line, where Wingate finds themselves in a 4th and 1. Swanson rolls left, shows incredible patience, and finds Lumpkin open with some great touch, putting Wingate at the 8-yard line. But on top of that, drawing a penalty from Ottawa and being inside the 5-yard line with 2 minutes and 39 seconds to go. On this very next play, you've heard it once, you've heard it twice, you're going to hear it again. This time for 6, Swanson gets the snap, looks right, comes back left underneath to Addie Cadwell with another touchdown against the defending champs. And now it's gut check time. They are down 18-20, so you know that they need this 2-point conversion. They come out in a 2-by-2 set. Snap to Swanson. Drops back. Cadwell running a corner route from right to left from the center position. And it's in double coverage. Maybe not the best decision, but the ball hits the defender's hands and rolls into Cadwell's hands for an improbable game-tying conversion here. I know I'm spiking the mic way too much during this, but I just can't help but be fired up by these Colorado athletes bringing it toe-to-toe with the defending all-time national champs. But this is Ottawa that we are talking about. Are they still who we think they are with 2 minutes left? Well, they've lived this moment plenty of times with different faces in different places. Let's see if this version has it. They start off with a quick pass that just gains a few, but they're not really in a rush here. You know, a timeout is taken. They're getting up to the line. They're going to go at their pace. They are comfortable in these situations. They show great poise, and so they are conducting themselves as such. They then pass left to Linkus, who makes the catch and gets out of bounds to the 21-yard line. But then Anna Anderson, being the freakish athlete that she is, breaks left and then just cuts right down the heart of the field and Wingate at the same time, running all the way until the 36-yard line of Wingate here, just on a quarterback run. So Ottawa is comfortable on downs, field, and time. They get a check down to about the 29-yard line, and the clock is ticking. They then throw left, and that is caught by Linkus into the red zone. They're on the ball quickly to the 18 now, but there's going to be a timeout that slows this all down a little bit, and it's going to come down to this last possession. The next play advances all the way to the 8-yard line, and Ottawa is on the ball. They go for gold here, and it is incomplete here. 4th and 9 with a chance to tie or potentially go to overtime here, but Ottawa, will they pull ahead here? Wingate showing lots of poise, forcing a 4th down here in the very first place. What is Ottawa going to do? The ball is snapped. The clock is ticking. Anderson stepping left, shifting left just a little bit, and just times his throw perfectly as Linkus breaks and loses her defender, catching it in the end zone here. And that is going to be ball game, ladies, gents, and theys here, as they pull away. Ottawa only giving Wingate enough time to kind of run two plays. They play prevent defense, and they pull out the win 26-20. An absolute spectacle between these two teams here. Lots to learn from both of these squads. Obviously, for Ottawa, nice to pull out a gutsy win, especially with a young quarterback here, a freshman, mind you. And while they have experience, especially on the defensive side of the ball, it is always good to be tested and to be pushed here. And so shout out to Anna Anderson, remaining calm, remaining poised, and shout out to the Sowers coaching staff here, getting in positions where Linkus comes out of the slot position, utilizes her route running, and gets open and just takes advantage of an experience and skill situation. Linkus has been around. She's made many clutch catches in many big games, and this one just adds on to the resume of an absolute legend, as Ottawa finds a way to close the door and pull out the win here over the Bulldogs. Now, for the Bulldogs, this game showed a lot about their potential, in my opinion. There was a lot of poise from the quarterback position. Very few bad decisions here. Obviously, love to see these Colorado athletes getting theirs. Addie Cadwell making plenty of plays, scoring a ton of points. Swanson finding her. Swanson also finding Francis. Janelle Francis, just an incredible game here. Had so many touches, made the most out of all of them. Can't even imagine how many yards she was getting per play towards her. We obviously knew about Yvonne Brustel here. She's improved a little bit on offense, I would say, and still brought the noise on defense. Now, obviously, Anna Anderson still made some plays. It'd be nice to have a little bit of a rotation that was just a hair deeper here, but still got to be impressed with how they played against such a caliber of opponent. Maddie Jones, obviously out of Colorado, also breaking up some passes. Wish she brought in that interception, but I know she'll get it next time. And this Wingate team is going to be very exciting as they head into Conference Carolina play. But both these teams put on a show and gave me a lot to consider heading into rankings. But for the time being, number 1 Ottawa downs number 10 Wingate 26-20 at the end of regulation.
Alrighty, that'll do for that episode of the Playmaker's Corner podcast. Thank you so much for rocking with us. And remember, our Thursday episode, which will be episode 500 of the Playmaker's Corner, will be our rankings and recognitions for week 3. But until then, by the way, make sure you follow us on social media at Playmakers Corner, and also check out our website, playmakerscorner.com, so that you can be up to date for all things PMC and all things women's college flag football as your premier podcast for it. But until then, we'll catch you next time.